Actually, did you know that Vidic is the brother of Dan Climaco of Curtains of Living? Did you know
Oh,
that?
They have a lot of artists in their family.
yeah.
May bungkag ni media Justin.
Hi, Jiggy. Top of the morning. Hi, everyone. How's your Monday morning so far?
You tell me.
Join us on our YouTube live stream. That's Tops Media Center on YouTube, guys. If you also want to join us on our Facebook Live, we're live as well. That's Tops Media Center. Nya, apil-apil sa mo sa mga comments, chika-chika. Let us know what you think because we got a lot of things to chika you this morning.
0962 and mo kada tong text number 0962. Hold on, give me a second. 0974635337. That's 0962 7463537. If you want to join us in our conversation. How was your weekend, Justin? Mine was great. I was celebrating
do?
my dad's 83rd birthday.
Wow, happy birthday.
83 years old yesterday. Happy birthday, Dad.
Happy birthday. What did you do for
si,
his
si
birthday?
Si Pisyong.
Let me guess.
Simplicio.
You say your mom cooks the best inununan. Did you eat
No.
inununan?
Inununan.
Pork belly?
Inununan is not like a party food, right?
Yeah.
So we had my dad's famous bami.
Oh, kana.
Yeah, bami, and then
Chinese tradition
I
was
think
the birthday no mo.
we had the grilled pork, of course, kanang sinugba.
Yeah.
Nga baboy, unya daghang kay pansit sauce. My goodness, my dad's already 83 years old, so he's gonna probably live forever with the amount of pansit we had last time.
Yeah.
We also what else did we have?
What
we
about
had
for, like,
lumpia,
dessert?
And we had ice cream and some
Ooh.
cake I bought at I think it was Goldilocks.
Ooh.
So it was I'm really scared when it comes to sweets because
Yes, of course you
sugar is the enemy, right? so if you bring somebody a gift like a cake, it's like I want you to die.
Yeah, in a way, no? But what the heck do you give them then? Like some gluten-free tofu or something like that? Like
you give them a big hug.
Don't tell me for someone's... you know what, Jiggy? Ano na lang, if it's someone's birthday, give them utan.
Utan,
Oh.
tangkong.
Imagine giving someone like a bowl of like chop suey or something.
Kana.
Like, happy birthday.
Pwede.
So that's what you want for your birthday, noted. Jiggy
Okay,
doesn't want cake.
yeah.
He wants he doesn't want cake and ice cream. He
No,
wants like
just no sugar. That's all.
Okay.
Sugar-free anything will do.
okay.
Okay,
Do you
so-
actually believe like there are sugar-free? Are they like legit?
What do you mean?
Like when you go to a store and they say sugar-free ice cream, do you actually believe
Well,
it's like sugar-free?
You know what?
To a certain extent.
That's actually a very good question, Justin. I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, which is a sham.
Kinsa may police ana diha sa atong mga grocery stores. Kinsa may magbantay-bantay na nga tanan gigibutang sa ilang label insakto na, di ba? Dili na
Yeah.
pangila, di ba?
Yeah.
Dili gyud takibaw pero so
Groceries I get because then they go to like kanang
yeah, I know, but
approval and stuff. But what if like sa restaurants or like ice cream shops?
Sigurado ka nga nakalusot na sila og sakto nga
Yeah.
nga screening process basig
Yeah.
basig nagsabot lang sila sa tag-iya sa grocery ay bligya ni akong kuandri akong unsa maning butanga nga akong nga lami kay ni tanan ni panghuman kaning makagwapo ni nila kung mukaon mo ani ninyan na kaning pagkaon na magwapo ka.
Naa say mo tuuan
Oo,
no?
nasa mo to ni ana. Mo
Ay.
na yung problema nako actually, Justin. Di ko 100% sure nga ang label sa imuhang mga gipalit sa merkado sa grocery especially is mao na siya, insakto gyud na siya. Mas
Yeah.
makatuo pa ko nga kung mopalit ka og let's just say prutas for example kanang
Oh, yeah.
limoncito or which is my favorite fruit by the way.
Lemoncito?
Limoncito. I always buy
Oh.
limoncito because I always
We used to have that plant
I always
sa mong balay.
squeeze one or two calamansi fruits every time I drink water because I can't stand water.
You're not acidic, Monday, no? You don't have like
acidic stomach.
Yeah.
No, but it's just one or two, and based on the ratio of water to calamansi, medyo taas
Okay
ka,
ra,
diluted
kaya
kayo ang so, but not my water always has like a tinge of calamansi. So sigurado ka nga akong gipalit, imong gipalit calamansi. Sigurado
Yeah.
ka imong gipalit kay saging, di ba?
Yeah.
So no label required, right?
Yeah.
And
Unless you're fussy about all the kanang mga GMO and
yeah.
artificial growers and all that.
Well, first of all,
Uh,
GMO para nako it's like for me lang yun, GMO is like a non-issue for me because the reason why it's genetically modified is for many good reasons. Number one, to withstand disease. Number two, to become bigger, and number three, maybe to minimize or eliminate the seeds. Kanang saging at una kung wala pa nag GMO,
then it would have so much seeds.
Dagko man kayo nagliso ang saging niya itong una. Daghan kayo mga
And the issue of GMO is still a very minimal issue compared to...
And nothing happens to the fruit. Nothing happens to the fruit, man. Good, unsa may inaan.
Okay. I don't have like data on that, so I
Yeah.
can't really back
Yeah.
it up on like why people prefer.
Yeah.
A lot of people would believe it's cancerous and other things, but I don't really have anything to back that up yet.
There's no proof to that. Mo na problema ana gyud kanang mo nagibutang watay kalibutan mo himo din ta og conjecture. That's really human nature. Ana gyud na siya, natural gyud na siya. So ang importante ana tagaan gyud na mo information dayon nga. Pag abot ni ani naa kay kaning what do you call that? PR kaning cascade good sa tibuok kalibutan, o if something is recently discovered or sa tibuok Pilipinas, tibuok Cebu nga naa ni bag-o nga development, ani ni siya, ani bitaw paybaw ang ginyo mga tao. Kay kung dili niyo paybaw maghimo-himo na sila conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
right?
So it kind of reminds me of what you mentioned earlier when I asked you ba, do you actually believe if mga sugar-free gina siya? Kung lolo before, kay hilig ka na siya mo inom og Coke.
Okay.
Like he drinks Coke every time, like with every meal. And then when Coke Zero came out, Coke Zero na kunuhay. But
Okay,
you know,
okay.
I don't think it's actually that helpful nga mag Coke Zero, but you still drink it every day or every other day, you know?
Well, you know, they declare naman sad in their label nga what kind of sugar
Yeah, what kind of sugar it is.
replacement they have, right?
Or sometimes we take him out to Gelatissimo nga ice cream shop, and then you know, he gets the sugar-free nga ice cream.
yeah.
But I don't actually think it's like, I don't know if it's full sugar-free, like totally sugar-free good na. I don't know.
But why don't you believe them that they have a sugar alternative replacement sugar?
Yeah, I think they do. I just don't know exactly what it is.
Splenda, di ba? Explain mo na siya. You can actually Google that. Unsa nang ilang mga sugar additives.
Murag replacement.
Sugar replacements, sugar substitute, I should say,
Yeah,
right?
substitutes.
So, naman na siya. Niya, paghuman, gawin na ako ba? May tatong na apps nga. Kada bitong ibutang lang nimo sa imuhang telepono ang sa camera ang imuhang
Food.
ang food unya maka-identify na siya. What is this? Sugar free, you know. You know what I mean?
You know, I don't think we're very far from that. I think there's somewhat some technology in the
Correct,
future nga you can maybe like a pin nga imo lang is disposable pin
Correct,
ba nga.
correct.
You stick it in your food and then it helps you check out the components.
Kaya importante
That's so
kayo.
helpful, especially for those who are trying to
Importante
avoid allergens. Like if you don't know what's in the food, and also the one serving it doesn't know if it's prepackaged and there are no, you know, there's not clear instructions or clear indications on what's there, then that would really help. Like you would know, ay, allergic man day ko ani, it has soy or whatever things I am allergic to. So yeah. But if you're not allergic to anything, if you're not conscious like me, yeah, okay ra.
Anong di man I don't believe you're not conscious. I think you are, right?
There are certain food if I
Okay.
don't like it,
Okay.
like
You're conscious about things that you don't like.
yeah.
So mo na siya importante kay
Like I know I won't like it, so I don't eat food that has it.
Ah,
Yeah.
like for example, what are you trying to avoid?
Cucumber. I hate cucumber on.
Really?
I like cucumber juice, but I hate cucumber on like food.
Really now?
It's weird for me. Like kanang shawarma.
Oh.
I tell the miss to not put cucumber, but if na cucumber ka akong i-pick out, it feels weird.
I'm not a fan of cucumber, right? Although I
Yeah.
used to sell cucumber, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, but for me, cucumber is like a non-issue. Like what I mean is, I don't care if it's there or not. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't feel anything. Nindot ng
Is there anything nga food that you don't like? Kaya that's one of the things I don't like eating.
What
Cucumber.
I was gonna ask you, unsa may naa sa taste sa cucumber nga akong paminaw ng cucumber. It tastes so harmless and it doesn't intrude in the taste of the food. Maybe you don't like the seeds. Maybe.
Kana pod, I don't like how it's like slimy in the middle, and then it just feels weird with meat. Like it's okay in juice. I'm fine with like cucumber refresher or something like that.
Okay.
But when it's with shawarma, I don't know. It just feels weird. I know the
Okay.
purpose is
Yeah.
it's supposed to be refreshing.
Yeah.
Para di luod ang meat, pero it feels luod
okay,
with
okay.
it.
That's
That's
fair,
just
that's
me
fair.
though. That's just me.
That's just fair.
Yeah, it's just funny. My family knows it when they see cucumber on the side of my plate. They know I've been picking it out of
pero
my food.
Pero the taste does not bother you.
I don't like it. Good.
Because you like it maka as a juice ka.
Yes.
You just don't like it in
Anywhere
combination
else.
in combination with kaning savory
Yes,
meals,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So ganahan ka, yeah, maybe for its refreshingness as a
Yes,
juice, right?
juice.
Or maybe for a fruit salad, maybe? Would that
I haven't tried it with fruit
Okay,
salad.
but-
I like okay na siya with juice or like I
so
think
you
if it's
so you don't dislike it. You just don't like the combination
yeah.
of cucumber and meat,
like meat or
something
yeah,
savory,
like
right?
kanang mga I really like Middle Eastern food, and so
okay.
like kanang mga shawarma and kebabs and all that. And then when they have cucumber, I usually
Okay.
dish it to the side. I
Okay.
kind of ignore it.
Okay.
So murag, I think it's just that, just those two combinations I don't like.
Okay.
Siguro how much you dislike sugar is how much I dislike cucumber with meat.
No, but your characterization is inaccurate because I don't dislike sugar.
Oh, you're just weary of it.
I'm just trying to make sure that I am aware of my
Intake.
propensity, my inclination to take or love sugar. That's why I'm trying to manifest. I don't like it, right? But I actually do like it. In fact, I was just drinking Sprite the other day, and I told my
You barely drink soft drinks.
yeah,
ma?
I know. Well, I do if I have to. It's Coke Zero, but I drank Sprite.
It's
Sprite,
Coke Zero.
Sprite, and it was sugar free, but it was sweet because it had like again sugar additive. And ko lami agira ning kaning sukar sa. I was lami jugeng asukar.
When you haven't had it for a long time and you finally drink it, you're like, oh.
lami jugeng asukar. Why kalupig sa sukar? Mo na siya nga.
Yes.
That's why I always make sure nga I'm aware of how bad it is, and then I try to mura pag develop discipline of some sort.
Yeah.
Or I would even say develop hate for it. You know what I mean? Ganahan ka nga di ka ganahan. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Ganahan ko nga dili ko ganahan ana. You know what I mean?
Ganahan ka nga di ka ganahan, ana.
I'd like
Okay.
to be able to have.
Para ma-control ni mo ang amount that you
Oo.
take in.
For example, kanang mukhaon ko lami kayong pagkaon. My comment always was
In your head.
in your.
What-
No,
what-
I actually blurted out
Oh,
loud,
okay.
which is funny to some people. Kanang
What do you say?
Lami kayong pagkaon. Sus kalagot lami aning pagkaon na eh.
Kalagot noon. Bali noon.
Mura ba mga daghan gyud kog kaon aning ang kaning paniudtuha. You know what I mean? So maglagot ko nga lami. You know,
I've not experienced that. No,
maglagot
sa
maglagot
kalami.
kong nga lami kay madaghan akong kaon. For example, kanang humbao, parat man kay na, di ba?
Yeah, that is
Sus,
super
my
parat.
goodness, daghan kay kog kanon makaon ni ron. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Because
I haven't
you-
experienced that, but I think I know what you mean. Like,
Kanang kung parat kay pagkaon, ganahan man ka nga imuhang sagulan og kanon nga tabang kanang
yeah.
something bland, right?
So magkadaghan ang humba, magkadaghan po ang rice, and then
Oh,
it's a loop.
Oh,
It's a cycle.
So, muna siya mura kog maglagot pero again we don't make the right decisions for our body, right? Our brain
Oops.
always wins. Our brain always makes the decisions. So makaon kita og daghan ng humba, makaon kita daghang ice cream. Kin makadaog man siya, wali dili man makasulti ang atong lawas against the brain, right? And
Yeah.
we're emotional beings. We're not
Like a robot.
we're not intellectual beings. What I mean by that is we don't decide based on what is right.
On, like, what's rational.
We don't decide on what's rational. You're right. We decide on what feels good to us. Mo na siya. So
Yeah.
mo na siyang pangitabuag yun.
Yeah, I can relate to that. When you mentioned we don't necessarily make the best decisions for our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kana bitawng when you're about to sleep and then you know you're tired, your body is tired, but for some reason your mind feels like it's wide awake. So you should be doing work. Like
Okay,
you could
okay.
read a book,
Okay,
you
okay.
could do other productive stuff.
Okay.
But for some reason you also don't feel like reading. So you'd rather doom scroll, you'd rather go
Doom
scrolling on your
scroll.
phone, right? Pero kabaw ka nga gikapoy ka. So yeah, sometimes I'm guilty of that, but I found a way around it now.
Okay.
You know what's my technique now? It's to completely turn off all the lights. Kaya mag-struggle imong mata sa dark, and then you'll kind of force yourself to close your eyes. Even if you're not tired, you'll eventually just fall asleep, I guess. So I don't know, that's what works for me.
Okay.
So yeah, hopefully
Mo lagi
I'll
kaning
practice that when it comes to eating.
kibaw ka ang mga negosyante kanang mga people who make food, people who want our attention. Nagistudyuhan gyud na nila ang utok sa tao.
Yeah.
Gistudyuhan gyud na nila ila gyud nang gisabot unsaon nga motanaw ta sa atong cellphone nga mokaon ta ning
We
butang
know.
at gistudyuhan na nila usa sa mga butang nga usa sa mga lugar diay nga ilang gistudyuhan kanang yung casino. Kanang casino gyud. Dugay na kay ni sa tanan sa Amerika pa niya mga studies back in the 70s and 80s. Kanang mga casino gyud mo guna example of dopamine hit kung makadaog ka. Barato ra kayo kay giba kanang sana slot machine, di ba? Imuhugag sinsiyo diha niya. Na dopamine hit kung makadaog ka, kung
Yeah,
apildi ka.
exactly.
Yeah, ganahan na po ka. You want more of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
endless loop na siya.
Yeah.
So ang behavior sa tao inana gyud in consumption also. When we consume things, mopalit ako sa kabutang, lamian ta, we want more of that.
There's
more.
a likelihood that
Oh.
we'd repeat that behavior again.
So is
That
short.
reminds me of my friends. Daghan kay kog friends nga, shout out to the people who might relate to this. Kanabitang there's like an app that they get on their phone.
Okay.
Yeah, it connects to your like GCash.
Okay.
Yeah, gambling siya, mag-slot machine, pero online.
My goodness. Oh.
Kanang, it's also letter S.
Mm.
Scrap. What's the name? No. Scat. I
Right.
think scatter. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
Something like that. For those who know it, like, and hilig kini sila na, they say it's super addictive daw.
Okay.
The next thing you know, tanan yung sa GCash, wala na, hurot na imong 5,000.
Mo-good.
Hurot na imong kwarta.
Mao gyud, sakto
So I
gyud.
think that's even more dangerous because it's on the, it's on your fingertips.
Mao gyud.
To go to a casino, you have to physically go there, be there, drive there.
They're making it more easy
It's accessible na ba?
to let go of your money, di ba? Because
Mas
first
kuyaw na siyang online.
mas kuyaw gid na siya mo nang
Oh my
kanang
goodness.
digital technology kuyaw kay nas tanan gyud grabe gyud kuyaw kay di ba gahisgot man tanin atong una nga the further you are from the thing you are stealing,
Yeah. The braver you become.
the more the braver you become, the more you don't mind doing it. So for example, ang example nato, di ba? Nga kunaka makakita ko sa gatos diha nga paper bill, 100 peso paper bill. Di ka gana makawatan na niya kay
Even if it's right in front of you.
right in front of you, tag-iya kay kaning kuyawan man ka basig na tag-iya or basig ang tag-iya gahuwat ra dito sa gawas or maybe whatever, right?
But,
Pero kung nakay usak gatos nga in a bank nga pwede ra nimo kwaon nga
online.
nga dili siya papel but
Yeah.
ma-transfer nimo usak gatos ka pesos sa imong account,
Yeah.
masayo na siya. Mas dili ka kuyawan.
Kana.
Eh,
You'd be given more bravery.
Oh,
You'd have more courage to do that.
The word that I was looking for is embolden ka nga mangawat anang butang nga kay layo man kay ka sa butang nga imong gikawat kay digital representation naman na siya, dili man papel. So parihara sa
Yeah.
kaning sa purchasing, parihara sa imong mga decisions sa imong kinabuhi. Layo man kay ka kung for example na kay gipalit nga tag 100,000 pesos niya kung mubayad ka na og cash niya, porting dakuha na.
Yeah,
basta
you'd also feel.
daghana ni uy. Kapuya ra bag
Pero
pangitaw
if you're
kwarta.
doing a bank transfer lang or
Oh,
doing it through
mura
your
usa
phone.
ka pislit mo na nga sayon gyud kayo.
Exactly.
So mo na yung nakabati
That's one of the worst things about the digital age.
the drawback
Yeah.
of
And
digitalization.
like
no?
I said when we had this conversation as well, I mentioned, and that's also why people are more emboldened and they're given much more courage to make mean online comments or
Yeah.
mag-online kanang mo bash bitaw mga lain tao.
Correct.
So why daw if nakasatubangan sa imong kanang the person that you hate the most.
Dili baka kasumbago na niya, di ba?
Oh, di ba ka mahadlok usahay to
Di
say
ba?
what you wanna say?
Correct.
Di ba mas brave ka to say something to someone from behind the screen, from behind your phone?
Correct.
Especially if dili nimo kaila ang tao, especially if that person is 100,000 miles away from
Mao
you.
gyud, oh.
Di ba you're more emboldened? So, like Jiggy said, there's something that happens when there's distance between you and the thing you want to do
Okay, yeah, correct.
because of technology.
Because of the
So,
distance.
yeah, in a way, it is
Distance, good.
distance.
Oh.
And it's the same thing with, I have had friends who told me also, G, ka namang wiyab. Sa una, like, if you wanna really get someone's attention, doon gid na nimo.
Kulbaan ka, oy.
Oh, ikaw, Jiggy, I'm sure kasaway ka na mo.
Pwedeng
Hello,
kuyawa.
di ba? How do you start the Jiggy? You introduce yourself or, hello, what's man?
Dili, oy, usually.
Muhay.
No.
Sa magpretend ka na kay what's your technique?
I'm very bad with starting a conversation with strangers, right?
Really?
So mangita,
Jiggy Juice is ano?
Mangita juga og paagi nga naay kaila na niya. You know, like
Okay.
friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
What if wala? Because I'm trying to make a point with the digital world thing. I'll compare it with
that might be for me personally. That might be impossible because I would never talk to a person.
nga no
nga-
mutuals, no
nga-
nothing.
No nothing, good ba? No nothing unless you see something maybe like a kind of spark.
Okay.
Maybe nitanaw siya nimo.
Okay.
Or maybe nitanaw kaniya ni paghuman ni hunong siya, whatever.
Okay.
But usually mangita jud ka og kaning connect.
something that ties you
Mangita
guys
ka connect,
together.
Mangita ka
Yes.
connect. Kaya ba nga no? What takibaw psycho na siya. Right? What
Oh,
takibaw
yeah.
what takibaw buang na siya.
Okay, so you need the referral. You need the referral.
What sa kibaw kinsam ning niduol taw nako.
Exactly.
Oh, nga
They might think you're some weirdo.
Oh, some weirdo, you know. So mo na siya nga ako maglisod jud ko kay istorya og usa ka tawo nga why connect.
Okay.
So mangita jud ko connect.
Okay. So what if there's a connect? Then how would you start it? Like in person?
Moingon ko niya Justin kaila ka tong Procopio. Kaning ganahan
Oh, yeah, Procopio is my-
pwede ko introduce ko be.
Pa-introduce ka.
Introduce ko
Okay.
ba? Wala
What
siya.
if dili pa-introduce? Have you tried like
Sa
was
dili-
there an instance nga even if you have mutual friends, you
Okay.
approach someone
Okay.
first and
Okay.
start the conversation.
Okay.
Di ba makakulba man na siya? Like,
Kulba kayo,
it's-
panington ka,
right?
bugnaw,
but a lot of my friends would say now in the kanang panguyab landscape,
In the world of Tinder, mo ba na siya?
no, in the world of kanang message, like when you're trying to
Okay.
make friends with someone, it's
Okay,
easier
okay.
to make friends with someone where you're kind of emboldened, like what you mentioned,
Okay.
if online.
Okay.
Regardless if you have mutual friends or not,
Okay.
it's easier, much easier for you to just message someone and be like,
Okay.
hello,
Okay.
are you friends with my friend this and so on, so that kay man, if di ka tubagon, yes, it's kind of embarrassing, it's kind of sad, but it's better than like approaching someone in person yet tanawon ra ka, or di ba, or they walk away from you.
Snap lang ka, di ba?
Mas kana mas ulaw na, masakit na.
Yeah, masakit na. Pero
So-
mo lagi fear mo nang usa sa mga kinanglan nato makatunan nga wa pa ta nakatunan na pagabata nato kanang fear of rejection ba. Kaya ka namang rejection, man, good. If you really think about it, rejection is a way of life. Yeah, we are rejected
I like that.
every single time. We just don't know it. We just don't feel it. Or maybe grabe kayong ang rejection
Maybe
all
we
the
can
time.
talk about that. Let's ask
Yeah.
our listeners, what
Yeah.
is their greatest rejection?
Yeah.
And how did you like feel about that?
Like
I don't know.
For example, ako, I'm into sales, right? I'm selling airtime, by the way. If you guys want to advertise,
Go, guys.
You can message us here at 105.1 TMC. We are the most Cebuano radio station in the entire world. Pinaka-Cebuano ng radio station in the entire world. If you want the Cebuanos to like you,
Yeah.
if you want the Cebuanos to have a positive vibrations towards your brand, this is the right radio station
That's
to
right.
advertise. So see what I just did there? I was trying to sell. But anyway,
Perfect.
99.99% of the time, I get a no.
Okay.
You know?
That's 99.99999%
Yeah,
of the
like,
time.
that's why I live with rejection every single day. Every time. Dili, kaninga, because
Would you say, Jiggy, that you're used to getting a no?
I'm used to getting a no. And it makes
then
it makes the yes even more fulfilling.
Were you always like that? Or
What do you mean?
like, were you always like that when you were younger, much younger, probably like around my age? Were you always welcoming to no's? Or were you...
No way, man. No,
No,
way.
also.
Wa na siya kaning
No.
That was trained. That was drilled on me.
Kitsa mo yung like who?
Wala lang.
Was it just you who
I-
decided to like
Well,
no's?
I probably read a few books, about selling when I was young, So, like no does not mean no sometimes.
Or is it because naanad lang ka nga, you've gotten so much no's and you know that you've gotten so much no's and then you know that it's not, like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Maybe.
Or basi na fuel ka sa no?
I
don't know.
Na anad lang ko og cycle ngayon ana ba nga out of the 10 people that I will talk to, surtin lang ko ning usa ka buok nga mo sugot, mo
Is it-
sign.
Is it fair to make a general sweeping statement? Do you think that the younger generation is sensitive to rejection?
Absolutely. I think because
Yeah.
we are in a world that gives us the dopamine hit that we want in many ways.
Okay.
You can get a like, you can get this and that.
Okay.
So you can.
So it's easy to feel that
And then
high.
it's easy to connect with like-minded people who are who believe in the same things that you do, and think the way that you do, and will give you a sort of like a positive reinforcement, like a bubble that's all good vibes, which is a good thing too,
Okay.
right? But wala pwede ka, you live in that world and you will never have any rejection whatsoever. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
So masayon gyud ron nga you can get the world that you want. But the problem with that is the real world is not like that. Once you come in contact with, let's just say, something that's opposing your view or a kind of rejection of your view, then you get affected.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I wanted to see what your opinion was on that. I don't want to make a sweeping statement for
Okay.
like my generation.
Okay.
Personally, I do think that the younger generation, we are sensitive to rejection. And I think aside-
More so, you mean more sensitive compared to the previous
and I don't know if
generation.
it's because of exposure to rejection, but I also think technology, and you're right, with social media and digitalization, it romanticizes life in general. It makes it look like everything is I don't know, because you only see bits and pieces of people's lives.
Okay.
Like these influencers or these people who share parts of their... You don't show everything on social media. You don't wash your dirty laundry in public. So, syempre, you show the best bits of your life. And that's not a bad thing. That's what it's for. For me, also, that's not a bad thing if all you post are about every positive thing in your life, right? But
Well,
then...
it's your account. It's your life.
Right. Yeah. So for a lot of people, it becomes, well, it's the norm also. Nobody really, it's not really a norm to post every negative thing. Nobody,
Yeah.
people, society doesn't really cheer that on also.
Well, but because you see, the thing is, you don't feel like doing anything if you're in a bad place too,
Kana
right?
pod. Oh,
Right.
pero it then also reinforces that like mindset to everyone nga, there's like a romanticization of life, everything seems all good and
Fine and
dandy
dandy,
and
right?
fine.
Yeah.
And so when reality hits and you're faced with something that's not necessarily what you expected,
Mhm.
especially like how day-to-day people live their lives ba?
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes the realization hits harder
Mm.
than usual, and maybe it can be something overwhelming for us nga ang rejection is
Mm.
dako.
Mm.
Like, so I'm hoping, I don't know. I've heard a lot of older people say that too nga, kamong mga generation karon ba, you don't know how to take no. You don't know how to let it fuel you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of true sometimes. Maybe it's just me, but there are some no's bitaw that I feel like, siguro I need to be like you, Jig. I need to be exposed to more no's pa. I remember the first few times I got no's, like when you apply for jobs and then they tell you, we regret to inform you. You know what I think in my head? I'm like, yeah, you're gonna regret. No, I'm just kidding. You know how like, and we regret to inform you. I'm like, yeah, you're gonna regret it, all right? But di ba maano pa ka after a while? Mura kag... You know how like, and we regret. Oh,
Okay.
I think I'm too close to the mic.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No. I was
Watching your
I
YouTube
was
live.
I was watching our YouTube live so we can communicate with our listeners. Once again, you can
Yes.
you can join us in our conversation at Tops Media Center on YouTube, at Tops Media Center on Facebook. Baga kay kag Face
Book.
book.
You have to add the...
And or you can text us 0962-746-3537. Wow, I memorized it.
Woo!
Oh my god.
It's okay. It only took a couple of days.
Yeah, I know. Let me do that again.
I still have to memorize it too.
0962-746-3537.
Yeah.
So muna siya, takto jud ka Justin. Tinuod gyud na imong gisulti nga lisod gyud kaayo ang kalibutan karon kay kung ganahan ka nga malipay ka naa kay dopamine hit, pwede ra nimo adtuon imong paborito nga Facebook group o tanaw lang ka og mga kaning mga chat group nimo sa imong bubble magstorya ka nga mo agree ra gyud nimo dili mo sukol sa imong dili mo sumpake sa imong mga
your-
debate, di ba?
Yes, and all your feed, everything that you see, all mga posts, they're
Oh,
directly
correct.
kanang tailored man to what you like.
Correct.
So it's the content that you like.
Correct.
So ma-feed samot imuhang
Imong
what-
ego, imong
Yeah.
world
or
view.
malipay ka ba
Oh,
in your
imong
own
worldview.
little bubble. So then when you are faced with things that are making you uncomfortable like rejection,
Oh.
you go to a different place nga dili ikaw ang bida usahay.
Sakit kayo.
Sakit kayo.
Oh,
That
some-
is so true.
I know. So
my goodness.
I think ang mo ni siya ang lesson ani is that it's important
Yeah, what's the lesson
to
behind it?
really get out of the house, get out of your bubble.
Okay.
Talk to people who have opposing views.
You would encourage that?
Yeah, I would. It is necessary to look.
You need it.
You need it. You need to have people around you.
Be uncomfortable with
that don't like the way you think, that don't like you, people that do not share the same worldview as you.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you don't
expect.
you don't not like the person. Maybe most of the time you don't like his ideas, you don't like his thoughts,
or the way that they explain it.
the way they explain, the way they look at the world.
Kana.
Dili mo na personal. I mean, akong pasabot ba, masig na kayo sa katao nga dili nimo ganahan, dili mo na siya mismo imong di ganahan.
Sometimes it's how they handle things,
It's
what
the
they
way
believe in.
what they believe in, what they think. Unless of course you're talking about a psychopath. That's another story,
Yeah, that's a
right?
different thing.
That's a different story.
And you know what, Jiggy? These people that won't necessarily have the same thoughts and views as you,
Yeah.
you don't have to seek them. You don't have to go out and find them. Kaya reality, Ana, is they're all around us. There are really
Absolutely.
people, ano pa lang, talking to someone of a different generation palang is an
Correct.
example of that. Someone who has a totally unique experience from you, or someone who's lived in another era or another time from you. That's already enough to like expose you to that, and that's why I'm so happy. There are a lot of things that I learn from you. Sometimes it's really funny when me and Jiggy have conversations, and then I don't. For the longest time with the people that I hang out with, pareha ra gyud among views
Yeah, which is
towards a certain topic.
which is why you're with them in the first place, right?
Yeah,
Because
and
you have
then-
the same views.
Right. And then I only hear a different perspective about it when I talk to Jiggy
Yeah.
about it. Like, oh, yeah, you know what? That's right. And this usually comes in the form of, for example, the issues of kana magyaw-yaw on social media, someone who's been wronged and then would seek justice in a way of like ranting on social media. And then with the culture that I'm exposed to sa mga Gen Z karon, it's not necessarily wrong. In fact, that behavior is kind of, in a way, encouraged for a lot of people. Nga murag, yeah, kaning na artista nga maghungaw, magyaya di social media. Oh, mo anak ko nga, oh yeah, that's right, ana. And then when I talk to Jiggy about it, Jiggy's like, you know what? That's not nice. Why would you have to? Then I'm like, oh wait, yeah. On another perspective, you don't really need to do that. I mean, it sure is entertaining. I can't deny that. Malingaw ko, but in the end, like, does it really solve anything? So it's nice to have opposing views. So that's the solution to that, Jiggy.
Yeah.
Do you think the solution to getting used to rejection is just exposure to like an outside bubble?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to make sure nga your worldview is, well, it'll never be
Varied.
It'll never be complete. I was gonna say your worldview is complete,
complete.
but it can never be complete, right? But you know what the opposite of it is. So, for example, if you're conservative, then the opposite of that is liberal, right? So you talk to somebody who's liberal. You know, maybe you actually have a lot of things in common. You just don't know that. Maybe because of media, because of social media, we're just trying to
Like pit you guys against each other.
yeah, exactly, because hate gets amplified in social media and it gets traction in social media. Extreme emotion, I should say, gets a lot of traction, and usually it's hate,
Yeah.
And mo na sila nga gipaaway mo ba? Sa termino na basta gipaaway mo ba?
Yeah.
So mo na siya nga basig kung istorya lang kani pari-parihari day mo. Pari-parihari day mo
You'll
mga
find things that are
In common,
between
di ba?
you guys. Yeah.
mo na siyang
Mao
interesting.
nang advice ni Jiggy for this Monday morning, guys. If
Yeah.
you want to handle rejection better, expose yourself to different people and be open to like opposing views. That's a good way
Speaking
to look at
of views ba or world views ba, kagahapon or was it the other day? I'm not sure now. Zelensky of the Ukraine
President
of
of
Ukraine visited the White House with Donald Trump and JD Vance of President and Vice President of the United States. So niya mura mo to gaaway sila, mura mo to gi accuse mo to si Zelensky og things like
Being a
you're a dictator and
Patay.
you don't hold the cards and all of that stuff. And Zelensky was, of course, again asking for help from the United States. He's been fighting a 3-year war. Can you imagine? Tulo na katuig ning
Yeah,
gubata.
and
Justin.
the time went by so quick.
Yeah, I
I didn't
know.
even think of that.
Can you-
Sometimes it feels very. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe because I'm not. Maybe I'm also guilty of that. Ba? Basin, I have not been reading so much
Okay.
news about Ukraine. So, murag far kayo akong pananaw about it. Or has it just been nga murag, I don't know, over time siguro na ano lang ko ana murag na
Numb.
numb
Uh-huh.
to news about war, which is bad.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and then these things come up again, and then you're only reminded, oh, yeah,
or,
Ukraine.
or maybe
Is it just me?
Or maybe you don't feel it.
Affected,
It doesn't affect your life. Why do I bother with
Okay, maybe.
the Ukraine and Russia, or what has it got to do with me, right? You're probably thinking about that, right?
Maybe.
But I think ang real life consequences ng gubat is the price of gas.
Okay, that's one.
Ana siya. Kay kag maggubot kayong kalibutan gali Justin, especially kaning mga giants mag-away gaya ni sila. Ang especially kanang Russia, dako it's one of the biggest producers of fuel in the world, huh? And they supply a lot of fuel all over the world. So makuwang nagali ang supply sa gasolina, mumahal
It's
gyud
gonna
na.
affect everyone.
Mahal gyud na
That's
siya,
right.
and so on and so forth. So daghan kayong mga butang nga pagtuo na to wa tay labot Pero actually, dako kayang mahitabo, makafeel ta sa atong mga bulsa nga unsa man yun, nga mahal naman kayong gas, makapangawat man ta kuway kato, di ba? Di ba?
Yeah, exactly.
So nahitabo karon is that ang Amerika, which is supposedly the gitawag nila og the shining house on the hill, nga mo ni siya ang gitanaw sa kalibutan to lead us, to lead the world in peace and order and in many things. It looks like they're trying to relinquish that role and focus on itself, focus on America, because mo man ni si Donald Trump, MAGA, di ba? Make America great again. So mura bag iyang refocus ang iyang resources, iyang time sa iyang kaugalingon, nga nasod, in this case the United States, right? So mura siya og murag nationalist stance ba nga dili ta mag-usik-usik sa ato ang kwarta sa ubang lugar, kay mas importante nga ato ang
We have to prioritize our own.
atimanon ang atong kaugalingon. Mo man ang iyang murag stance gyud, di ba? Make America great again, right? So daghan kay mga
Opinions.
opposing views and also for that view. So ang akong pangutana ani is more than just that, about the specific issue of Ukraine and the United States, but it's the bigger question,
Greater implication.
the greater question that I would like to talk about this morning, Justine, is this: nganong di ay nganong
Unsay labot?
unsay labot nato diri sa Pilipinas, sa Cebu? Nganong
Maghisgot ana.
maghisgot man ta, nganong maglagot man ta, nganong ato man ang tukion, nganong maghisgot man ta anang butanga, wa man tay labot gyud na.
Okay.
Mas maayo pa maghisgot ta sa mga sunog nga nahitabo sa Lapu-Lapu City,
Yes.
sa Cebu City, right? Maghisgot ta atong van nga giuli na gyud ni Mike Rama sa City Hall, right? And so on and so forth. Dili ba mas maayo maghisgot ta og local issues kumparar sa maghisgot ta og
Yeah.
Donald Trump and Zelensky and
Yeah.
nag-away sila? Unsa may kalabutan nato sa atong kinabuhi niya ng mga butanga?
Yeah.
Ikaw, Justin, do you feel far removed nga from the globe? Do you feel like whatever people are talking about in the world, especially in the West or even in the East, in China or
Yeah.
even in Manila, in Malacanang, or in the White House or wherever in Europe, like, do you feel nga so labot na ko ana? Do you feel a kind of contempt about what's going on with the world?
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and be on the side and explain like why sometimes I do feel out of touch,
Okay.
and sometimes I don't pay attention to international news. If I'm
Okay.
honest, also, if I wasn't studying law,
Okay.
if if we're not asked about that in social issues, I
Okay.
probably, like, out of my own general interest,
Okay.
would be more interested in local issues rather than international issues.
Okay.
Like, especially relating to politics.
Mhm.
Not that I'm also very interested in local I wouldn't also make it sound like, I'm all over the news.
Okay.
But in general, I just feel it's kind of out of touch. And yeah, I do feel that nga murag usahay makaingon sad ko ba say labot nako. What's the greater implication of it? Like, why do I need to learn about it? Okay, just so you know about it. Okay. But it depends, because there's some issues, international issues, that I'm also kind of more well versed in compared to other issues. You know, if it's something related to media or Hollywood or music or anything that pertains to that, then I kind of know a lot of it, like kanang
Okay.
mga top kanang mga issues nila. But if it's sometimes about politics, like say US pa,
Okay.
US politics,
Okay.
I tend to be behind sometimes, no? And I think it's either of two things.
Okay.
Number one, it's either I'm ignorant about it. I just don't read more about it. So naturally, I don't have an interest. If you don't read about something, if you're not exposed to it, if you don't watch the news, you'll never grow in interest.
In interest, yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
you'll never be curious nga, what's the day about, what's going on. And then number two, if you're not surrounded by people that also talk about it, then you'll never talk about it. I'm not blaming my environment, but like now in law school, we talk about it a lot because like we learn how those things have a great implication on like partnerships with different countries and all that, international laws, even with the Philippines and the kanang West Philippine Sea, and if Trump can make those Kana if he can push Zelensky to do those things, then what are the implications? Could he also do the same to us as one of his allies in helping us fight for? Mark, there are connections that you can make
Correct.
in relation to how exposed you are now. So karon mas exposed na kunuhay ko ana because I have to study it.
Okay.
I have to be involved in it.
That's a good sign. Okay.
Yeah, but to be honest, if it was just out of my own interest, number one, if I don't if because I'm ignorant about it, it feels out of touch. And number two, not unless I'm involved with people who talk about it, then I will always feel out of touch. Yeah.
You know, I remember reading a book a long time ago called The 4-Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss. And then ingon siya nga, he goes on an information diet, kuno. Like, ingon siya kuno nga 99% of, again, 99% of everything that you read is unactionable. Unactionable. Wa kay mabuhat na ana. Majority of the things that you do, wa kay mabuhat ana. For example,
That's a nice perspective.
gubat sa Ukraine ug Russia, mag-unsa man kuno ka? Unsaon man kuno nimo pagsulbad? Unsaon man nimo change, right? So, for your sanity, you can't allow to get caught up in things that is unactionable, right?
Okay.
And ingon siya kuno nga
Okay.
kung naa kuno yung mga butang nga importante kuno, it's actually a nice conversation starter. He said nga, if you go to a restaurant, like you talk to the waiter and said, what's happening with the world today, right? Kung naabot na sa waiter, na-distill na niyang information, niya makahisgot na siya us kabutang,
Then it must be important in that
nga
neck of the
importante
woods.
siguro to. Kaya nga nung naabot man sa
Ngano
waiter.
kabaw man siya na?
O nga nung kibaw man siya na, di ba? So, then it becomes a conversation starter.
Oh my.
So importante ko na nga you don't kaning absorb all of that information because kanang utok ko no, it has a limited bandwidth. Mura na computer.
Yeah.
Nga kung daghan
At
na
a
kayo
specific
information
time.
na daghan na kayo na huna mabuang nakawala dili na mo kango na muhang na siya, di ba?
Needs refresh.
So mo na siya nga importante ka nga you have to go on a low information diet. Mo na importante
Okay.
na.
Or a moderate information diet, as Jiggy would.
Low information diet.
Low good, okay.
Low information because it allows for more important things, man good, to occupy
Or
your
kanang
mind.
parihan ng frequent eating, small but frequent meals.
Oo.
It also applies to
Yeah.
acquiring knowledge and information.
Ako man go Justin, ganahan jud ko og kaning geopolitics, ganahan jud ko og politics and religion in general, philosophy.
Okay.
So that's where I gravitate to. So I enjoy consuming information of that sort for the sake of it. You know what I mean? I don't feel the need nga it has to affect the way I
You're just generally
navigate
interested in
through
it.
the world, right? Kaning malingaw lang you go.
Yeah.
So mora usa sa mga kaning usa sa mga butang nga ngano nga mo consume ko information that actually is unactionable because malingaw raman ko.
Yeah. Aside from that,
information for information's sake.
aside from that, I think if I were to use my 2 points, you're not ignorant about it because you actively seek that information, man.
Correct, yeah.
You read about it,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
listen to international news,
Yeah.
you're listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Most of the people that you quote are Westerners, are people from that neck of the woods.
Yeah,
so you make yourself informed.
Yeah.
Number 2, you surround yourself with people. I know that you're always you talk to people probably that
I seek good conversations.
yeah,
in fact, sometimes
pangitaon gid na nimo ba?
Pangitaon na ako.
Mangutana gid ka ba? Do you
Oh.
know about this? Like even now, before we had the show, guys,
Yeah.
Jiggy asked like, "Hey, you want to talk about Zelensky and this
Yeah.
and that?"
Yeah.
So you're opening like cans
yeah,
of worms.
a worm. Yeah.
Of worms. So yeah, those two things. That's why you're aside from your general, interest in it,
Yeah.
you make yourself involved in
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So,
You know,
and that's a choice that all of us make.
yeah.
So it's not, that's not an excuse also for someone like me. It's not only that I'm not involved in that, it's also because I, choose not to be.
So if you want to,
I'm not as
if you
interested
want,
in.
if you want to join this conversation, join us on Facebook at Tops Media Center. On YouTube, we're actually live right now on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can see our faces. Naunsa man akong buhok, eh. Na conscious akong
It gets when you
know.
pull it from the back up. Dapat imong iana jigi.
Ansa?
Ana lang pag wear.
Ansa?
Like that.
Ana
Wear it
lang.
like this.
Sige,
Yeah.
ha.
Because when you slide it from the back of your head, mura man siya ma-headband di mo.
Ana.
There you go.
Salamat ha. Anyway,
Diba?
sa makakita ka sa akong buhok ug sa buhok ni Justin pod.
Yeah.
Join us at Tops Media Center on YouTube about this conversation about, how important is it to be aware of what's happening with the world around you. Pasabot na global news, even national news. Di ba mas importante nga imong may balaan ang mga butang imuhang may balaan ang mga butang sa imuhang tugkaran,
Yeah.
sa imong barangay, sa
Ang
imong
imong
syudad,
hisgot,
di ba? Imuhang tagaan og pagtagad, di ba? Kaya nga unsa may labot ni Trump og Zelensky og JD Vance nato unsa.
Pero there was something that you said earlier that I found interesting. Yan
Which
ka nga, one of the philosophers that you listened to said na to know if something is truly important, you go out to the world and you ask one of the most like regular people you come across and ask them, hey, what's going on with the world? And depending on their answer, that's how you know if an issue is important to that neck of the woods.
Okay.
But I feel like it's also subjective.
Okay.
But it's very subjective. Depends on who you talk to.
Yeah.
Depends on how ignorant or how well informed that person is.
Yeah.
Or depends on what that person is. Because you would expect like, even if you talk to the most, like someone who works in
In a newspaper.
the newspaper, for
Okay.
example, you would think that this person knows so much about this certain issue.
Mhm.
Pero it really depends if dili siya interested anang issue. Like, it's ironic sometimes. We work in a media center,
Yeah.
Tops Media Center.
Mhm.
We work in this kind of industry.
Okay.
But there's still a lot of things that I don't know about.
Okay.
And it's, again, as I mentioned, mainly because I don't read about it or I'm not genuinely interested about it.
Mhm.
So then when somebody would ask me and then I don't know about it, it's unfair for them to say, it's not important kay even ang mangani sa TMC, wala kabaw ana.
Mhm.
Diba? So I would actually disagree with that. That to know if an issue is important, you gotta ask a common person, ask them what's going on with the world, and depending on their answer, that's how you know if it's important. Because it just means it's important to them.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that it's not important to everyone else.
Yeah,
right?
you mean or it's important to everyone else, right?
Yeah, because it,
But
diba?
but
It's subjective.
yeah, you're absolutely correct. But yung pag-phrase mo sa question is what's happening with the world today, and we're not asking what's happening with you today, right? And kana magong information mo
Trickle down.
trickle down gina siya to its most common denominator, right? So may tabuan na kung maabot na siya sa inana nga klase nga tao nga regular person, right? Although there's nothing regular about anyone, but
Yes.
the waiter, for example, then pasabutan na ka ng information na niabot na niya kanang somehow marag nakita na gawa siyang feed or nakabasa siya sa newspaper.
But then again, I would find that that's dependent on so many factors.
Yeah.
What outlet does this person
Yes, but
diba?
but so
Like-
kana siya lain na siya kay point of view naman na siya. So makaibaw ka, for example, unsa iyang point of view, is he for or against it? So kibaw na ka kinsa na siya. Like nana ka idea ba? So but ang
Unsa exposure
ang,
ana
ang,
niya.
ang imong panggipong tana ra magud unsa may nabantayan nimo rong mga panahon na dili man na siya ingon nga nasa strong opinion ana bitaw. So
I think it's more telling of not necessarily of what's the important thing
Okay.
or like how important. I don't think if it trickles down to an ordinary person, again,
Okay.
we're just using ordinary for lack of a better term.
Okay.
There's something ordinary about everyone.
Okay.
But if it trickles down to an ordinary person, di ba, you would think, ka na nga news, it must be so important.
Niabot man.
Kay niabot man na siya tao. I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I think it's not telling of how important that news is.
Okay.
I think it tells us more of what that person is exposed to.
Yeah.
Kaniday siya nga
Correct.
tawhan na.
Oh.
Kana ara di ay ang mga news outlets nga iyang
Mm.
he knows a lot about local news
Okay.
because ang iyahang paminawon nga mga station talk
Okay.
a lot about local news,
Okay.
not about international news.
Mhm.
If I talk to a random person and they're gonna tell me all about Middle East and all that, I'll know, this person probably watches a lot of like Al Jazeera or kana mga international news outlets. So then, not that it's not that it became so important nga naabot ana niya, but you kind of get like a look into what that person is exposed to di ay.
Correct, yeah. You're absolutely correct. So but katong iyang advice nga to talk to a regular person or regular people is just to have an idea about what's going on with the world, so you're not totally and completely oblivious. Of course, you have to talk to many You can't just talk to one. There's no one person who's an authority on anything.
Yeah.
Which also brings me to the next the next issue that I want ba is that especially sa kalibutan karon, lain-lain yun ang point of view per news outfit na ay
Yeah.
kanang nahisgot ka ganihog Al Jazeera, di ba? That's the Middle Eastern perspective, di ba?
Yes.
Al Jazeera.
Al Jazeera.
Kumutanaw ka og Fox News. That's the conservative perspective. Kumutanaw ka og, let's just say, MSNBC, for example. That's the kind of a liberal perspective. So lain-lain ni sila og mga tuyo ba? Kay nakasabot naman gud ang mga tag-iya sa mga
Media
outfits nga negosyo man gud.
Yeah.
This is a
So it
business,
depends
right?
to what kind of they cater to.
Kung ganahan kag audience, you have to pander to a specific group of people. Kay kung you can't have it all now. Kay grabe na makita ka divided ron as a species. I would even venture say as a species, not
Species
just
good.
ang mga tao divided na kay depending on insa imong mga pagtuo diha ba sa mga butang sa politika, sa relihiyon, sa demokrasya, whatever, nabuwag naman gitag maayo. So kung ganahan ka makakwarta as a media outfit, you have to pander, you have to be specific about your message and what you are as a media outfit. Mo nang nitabo. Si Murdoch, right? What's his name? Rupert Murdoch, is that his name? The guy who owns Fox News? Murdoch,
I'm not familiar.
right?
Okay.
Murdoch.
Sige.
So nakabantay siya. This is how this is how he built Fox News, right?
Sige.
Nakabantay siya nga kadaghanan sa mga media sa Amerika very liberal. Very liberal ba? They're very forward-thinking. Nakabantay siya nga walay nag-serve sa mga conservative agenda. So naghimo siya og radio station, TV station, TV network
For the conservatives.
for the conservatives. Murang sikat kay nasa na ng Fox News kay murag nag-inusara man na siya
Compared to like CNN or ano.
MSNBC. Kay kuan magud kana manggong news reporting, people who are in the news reporting business usually are very open people, right? You can't be a newscaster and have an agenda. You can't go to a newscaster
And maglisod ka because then you'd be picky as to what you would be reporting.
So kanang open-mindedness is a kind of a liberal
Kanang
perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, so kanang mga tao nga naay agenda nga specific ayo, mo na siyang lisod kaayo nga daghan nga conservative nga perspective. Mo nang gamay ra kayong. So mo nang Fox News was very popular or still is very popular. Mo na siya. So ana ba, ang pasabot is importante kayo nga you have to expose yourselves to the opposite of what it is that you believe in.
Yeah.
You
know, I have a comment about what I don't like about Western news versus what I noticed about Western news versus Philippine news. Ba?
Okay.
I like the way our news is how it's done here sa TV. Number one, for me, it's more entertaining. It's either I have a very short attention span.
Okay.
I just feel like it's short, it's concise, the pace is great.
Okay.
There's, subconsciously you are more engaged because of this background music and all that. It's into different bits, in different sections, diba? There's a part that talks about sports, there's a part now it's on the weather report, now it's on celebrity news, media, then we're back to news about the government and all that. What I don't like about you, maybe it's just me lang ha, sa America Jiggy, kay it's kind of like walay background music, no nothing. The pace is much slower, and then they also allow for a lot of kanang debate between the news anchors. Sa tuwa wala may debate. Like most of the time, they report the news and then they agree, probably disagree, make a few comments, but they don't like have an hour-long section wherein they, diba?
You're correct. You're correct. So
Why is that? Why do you think that's the case? You've been in media for such a long time, and I don't know, why did the media outlets, a lot of the things that we do, even our own government is patterned of the United States. But how come in reporting our news, we did ours like a totally different way? You watch Al Jazeera, it's not like that.
Yeah.
They don't have that. Even like Nihongo News, kanang all the other big outlets, CNN, they're not like that. Pero kita, we have that. Like we've got the background music, we've got the kanang it cuts to different sections. Why?
Well, I guess nakabantay na sila, nakibaw na sila nga unsaon pag program sa ilang istasyonan nga mas daghan og maminaw.
Was it always like that, Jiggy? Like,
Which one?
Like that way?
Nga
Was
divided? Divided
was
kayo?
news always like that? for in the Philippines?
Well, the way I see it is inana gyud ang news na to nga medyo
Bits, right?
we're more objective nga dili kay ta mo show og color ba when they
Yeah,
report
we
the
just
news,
just
diba?
report it.
We just report it, right? So mo na siya mo siguro na
Ana
nga-
gina before?
mo siguro na siya nga nanira na uban nga stasyon, di ba?
Oh
Di
no,
ba? Di
I
ba?
don't
Di ba?
know.
Di ba?
Do you think it has
Yeah.
to do with? I have a theory.
Yeah.
I think, Manggod, one of again the core values that people in the West, one of the things that they hold dear good is their freedom of like being able to say their opinion about something. So they make space for that even when they report their news. Mo na ilang mga news reporters, they have a part nga mo say sila sa ilang own opinion, magdebate sila about something.
Okay.
But kita, that's not necessarily our agenda, man.
Dili man sa atong karakter siguro nga kanang
Dili
bitang
bitaw.
we're not a confrontational people manggod.
Anapod.
So murag kung mag-inana dili na sa atong kultura. So kanang mga
Yeah.
mga especially mga Americans, they really want to argue. They really want to debate. They really want to say what they feel, di ba? About a certain
Yeah.
given topic, right? So
To the point that they make time for it in the news.
yeah. So I guess that's the way.
Is that it?
I guess that's the way their culture is. Ngayon na sila argumentative sila ba? Mura sila confrontational sila
Pero
kita.
if I could like change something about the way they run their news, it couldn't
Yeah.
hurt to put some background music. Utanga sad nag-music.
Na-
Utangi sad nag-music gamay. Uy.
Depende sa siguro na unsa nga news
Ay,
outfit siguro.
kanang na mga background gamay ba?
Murag kuan manggod ang
Kiwaw ba?
ang feeling ana good mura manggod murag you're trying to sensationalize the news ba? Mo nang
Yeah, you know, you try to get people to be like,
kanang,
this is the news. Pay.
and now,
Oh, kana.
the news, diba? Mao kani ang mga balita. Tulo ka tao nilupad sa langit. Walay pako. Ana, like,
Ama pangan kay si Jiggy Juice, Justin Arbios, o Kuya Magic. Gikan sa Taos Media
mo na
Center.
siya. So mura bang, it sounds like, I don't know what they're trying to do. But the opposite is true though.
It wouldn't hurt though.
The opposite is true though nga although wala sila sensational background music, ang ilahasang ipangsulti is very sensationalized, di ba?
It is.
In many ways,
is
di ba?
already, yeah.
Diri sa Pilipinas, ang atong music sensational kaysa nan pero ang atong ipang istorya dili
Sa
kay
hypod.
dili kay sensationalized.
Yeah.
Dili kanang kuan na kay ba kanang gibasa ra gikan gyud sa balita bitaw. So maybe it's really cultural, but you know what? Maybe that's the old media now that you're talking about, Justine. I think most
Karon di ay.
of the media now are very, very, especially if you watch social media, are very, very opinionated, di ba?
Yeah.
Kaya naghanan nakabantay. I'll tell you,
Sige daw.
I'll show you an observation.
Okay.
Atong una, ang mga kuyog sa mga kandidato sa pagka-national positions ba magkuyog na sila magkuyog na sila og kaning magpakuyog na sila og kaning mga tao from the news networks para i-cover ilahang kon ba ilahang kampanya ba.
You mean the people that they associate themselves with when they
Or-
campaign?
Yeah.
Ang mga people with them.
Naipang-embed man ana man ang mga news outfits na sila ipang-embed kung especially kung presidential election
Okay.
kung mudangang presidente para
Yeah.
mo cover sa imuhang kampanya ba kiba
Yeah.
ka kasi kuyog anang mga tawhana karon
Karon.
mga influencers na
Exactly.
magkuyog makibong
Mga artistas ang mo, ano nila.
mahibong lang ka ba ngano man na si presidential candidate X and Y nganong kuyog man na siya kailan mo ka ng kuyog niya influencer man na siya mo na siya naitabo karon nga ang mga
That is so true.
ang mga tao karon dili na sila magkuyog og traditional news media kay boring man na sila gud. Ang ilang isgutan ang balita ra gyud wala way opinion
No,
ba.
and then social media spans way farther to the point that
Dili sa-
they're also hitting a majority of people.
Ang kapait sa ng social media is pwede ra nimo mabayran sa ang mga tao diha kay sila ra man na individuals man na dili man na ingon ta nga kaning kompanya gyud nga naay building nga naay mga daghang empleyado usa ra man na so sayon sa na siya kayo i-control ba you know so mo na
That's why
siyang
there are a lot of celebrities also that
Oh.
support a specific politician.
mo nang mo admire jud ka ng mga influencers nga dili gyud magkig-sawsaw sa politika ba.
Oh.
They don't want to be part of that because you know they will be misconstrued as kaning biased and ana mo ng politika usahay kanang bang wala gid sila prinsipyo bitaw kanang ganahan lang nga makadaog ano bitaw.
You think it's just a clout chasing game sometimes?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That no. That's not just a theory. That's a fact
That's really
because
how it
you
is,
want
yeah.
man to get the most number of votes. Mo man ay kaning importante niya ng butanga, di ba? So Importante kay
So, mga na
tanan.
rin ang new scheme
Yeah.
for a lot of the politicians or people who want to run for public
Yeah.
office.
So but
They don't partner with
but-
media, they partner with influencers.
I'm talking about that because that's the symptom of what we are talking about now.
Which is?
Nag-ingon ka nga ato ang news diri sa Pilipinas mura og boring kayo, murag wala kayo emotion in the sense nga walay bias ba. Although ang naay music nga sensational kay paminahon, pero and now the news. Pero ang ipang isulti mo, ang ipang sulti kanang kuan ra kanang wala
The way that it's packaged,
wala debate ba, di ba?
the way that it's packaged is interesting. It catches people's attention. It's
yeah.
more engaging.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Correct, yeah.
But I don't think it's it doesn't stir the pot.
Yeah.
Like the way that they package it is
Yeah.
not in a way that's makes people want to have conflict.
Yeah.
Ang Westerners, their news is super like controversial.
Yeah.
But it's also packaged
Pin-
very boringly. Like I would
Pinakisa nga na niya si Noli de Castro nga
Bayon.
tatlong katao namatay. Ana, di ba?
Yes.
So murag
Okay, music. And then there's certain parts pa nga. Okay, human ana niya.
pero
a few seconds
dili
after.
siya mag-spur og debate
No.
because it's
they don't.
sensational in the sense nga na theatrics ba?
Okay. There,
Theatrics, di ba? Pero the
So
way-
I'm looking, the word I described it is, it's engaging.
Yeah.
Engaging,
Oh.
but not controversial. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't stir the pot.
Dili sa sila ang mga news anchors
They
po,
don't
dili po
debate yun.
dili pag mag-debate po, di
I
ba?
remember when I was younger, mo-watch ko sa American news, makakaingon jud ko nga, wala, they're fighting. Like, they take an hour to actually debate.
Yeah.
Magdebate gid ang mga news anchors.
Yeah.
I don't think this and that,
Pero
and that.
usa sa nga butanggon nga kinanglan key characteristic of a good newscaster is that dili ka bias. Wa kay feelings ba sa balita ba?
So it's a good thing that we're like that.
It's a good thing because you're objective ang imong gibalita ang nara sa balita unsa ray nahitabo. Ang problema lagi ana is ang kana manggong balita traditional way of delivering the news, especially because we're talking about mga news anchors, di ba? Is tungod sa ka-divided sa katawhan karon, mas maminaw na sila, mas mutanaw na sila kung ang imong ibalita na kay skew, na kay bias sa usa ka ideolohiya.
Why is that? Is it
Be-
because...
so that they can relate to it because that's how they feel.
But would they only relate to it if that other person is skewed towards what they believe in?
Posible po maglagot sila.
Okay.
Nga kontra nila ang ilang kwan. So may tabuan na mo
It causes friction.
mo na netabo sa Fox News because every single news outfit before a long time ago was all liberal. Pag abot sa Fox News,
Yeah, conservative.
nibalhin ang mga kinabagan sa mga conservatives didto nila.
They're like,
Kay-
this one fits what I believe in. I'll
Yeah.
listen to this.
Yes,
And
correct.
it also piques the interest for the liberals. They're also like,
Correct.
unsa man nga station?
Yeah.
They talk about something completely different.
Yeah. So but kung kana the thing that I really envy ba about the United States and global politics for that matter, even Europe, is
Yeah.
that nagud sila kani prinsipyo bitaw. There's always like a clear conservative agenda. There's always the clear liberal agenda. There's the right and the left. So kibaw ka unsa sila pasabot what they mean as a party. But diri man good we're in a
We're kind of vague.
personality driven man ta good. I don't know of any conservative candidate. I don't know of any liberal candidate. They call themselves liberals, but I don't know what that even means as a Filipino, right?
We don't bitaw.
You know,
like,
so-
why are we not into those two
Wala man ta.
ideals?
So kanang mga news outfits, they pick up on that. So they become like a conservative leaning,
Or,
liberal leaning, ano bitaw? So mo na siya kung naka sa tunga-tunga go, di ba? Nag-ingon sila nga if you're friends to everyone, you're friends to no one, di ba? So
if you're friends with everyone, you're friends with no one.
So mura bang if
Damn.
if you love everybody, then
Damn.
then you have nobody, right? Because
Right.
like mura kag sakay lang ka ba? Wala kay prinsipyo ba? So mo na gibuhat nila dito. Diri sa Pilipinas dili man na mahimo good kay wa mo gud tay ang atong mga partido, ang atong politika, walay specific agenda ba?
I think Filipinos in general, it's part of our culture to be agreeable and neutral.
Correct.
Murag, anad siguro ta
Correct.
na ba?
Okay, we're also a third world magod. So kadaghanan
We're
sa
not
atong
extremists with like...
kadaghanan sa atong mga kaigsuonan sa they don't really care. They don't really care.
Pero you know what, Jiggy?
Oh.
There are also some facets of our culture in which we have a strong... most Filipinos, majority, are skewed towards. And you know what that is? Religion. When it comes to religion, it's clear also where we stand.
Okay.
Where we're not necessarily on like if so Western, you can see a clear cut between those who support liberalism and conservatism.
Okay.
In the Philippines also, you can see a clear cut with those who are Catholic believers and those who are not. Maybe
Yeah.
we're not skewed on
No, but
those things,
But
pero-
that's a different conversation
Lahi po
because
na, no?
you're talking about kuan now, religion now, right?
yeah.
You're talking about, but we were talking about politics earlier.
No, but I meant in the sense of like, diba, we ruled out that Filipinos, our culture kind of like encourages us to be neutral on certain things.
Yeah.
Especially in politics.
Yeah,
Like,
uh-huh.
it's a norm to not openly say that
maybe
I'm this or that.
maybe you're referring to the media. You're
Yeah,
referring to the
in the
media,
media.
right? But kibaw ka like birthday mo sa akong amahan last night,
Happy
right?
birthday.
So nagstorya sila dito like klaro gyud kayo nga naay mga pro Duterte, naay mga pro, mga
Pro Marcos.
mga
Yes,
Lenny.
yes.
So klaro
Yeah.
you can tell nga naghisgot sila og mga butang nga murag they're trying to be as neutral sounding as possible. Pero ako naminaw lang ko dito kay ako na may kinabatan noon nito. Naminaw lang ko na klaro kay nga kanina Duterte na siya, kana siya, kaning Lenin na siya, kana siya Marcos na siya. Kibaw jud ko. So
But again,
which is healthy.
Yeah, which what as what you said,
Yeah.
affirms that in the Philippines we're looking into like personality. So
Yeah,
they're
correct.
again pro people,
Yeah, yeah.
pro Duterte, but it's not like an idea. It's
Yeah.
not like what you said nga
Yeah.
pro liberalism, pro.
Diba?
Diba?
Naay agenda naay kaning naay prinsipyo ba? Wala.
It's more on pro that specific
Pro personality.
pro personality.
So you were making a point earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did kind of just
I think my
derailed
point
you.
was just that I was thinking that as Filipinos, when it comes to talking about politics, or like mga political ideologies, like liberalism and conservatism, we tend to be neutral. We tend to not openly make a stand about it.
We don't put it on our shoulder, right?
We don't like wear it on our sleeves.
yeah, sleeves, yeah.
We'll probably say we support a specific person in office, like kanang pro Duterte, pro this and that, but not the pro ideology.
Yeah.
Pero I would say, but there's something that I noticed about Filipinos that they're more open to like putting on their sleeve, and that's the cap that they wear,
Yeah.
that they're probably to wear. It has to do with religion.
Yeah.
Like you can see a clear cut.
Yeah.
If it's hard to tell that which Filipinos are pro-liberalist and pro conservatism, it's easy to tell which Filipinos are pro-Catholic and pro what's the opposite? I don't know. Or non-believers.
Yeah. Well, like in the Philippines, mo kanang butanga sa diya. We all know nga the Philippines is a majority Christian Catholic
Yeah,
nation, right?
we're the only yeah,
so it doesn't really
Southeast Asian ano man.
ang majority mo is overwhelming. So it's almost impossible for you, especially kung nanginabuhi ka diri sa Pilipinas, unya kadaghanan sa imong mga silingan, mga kaigsuonan kaning nagtuo sa kabutang, lisod kaayo nga mo voice out ka sa imong opinion, mo voice out ka sa imong disagreement about a certain belief, right?
Okay.
Because imong trabaho nag-agad man na imong mga kliyente, mga pareha, for example, kung let's just say atheist ka, imong mga amigo, mga amiga, mga silingan, mga kliyente nimo, mga reliyoso man. So dili ka mahimo nga magpagpatuga-tuga ka og pagawas imong gibati kung you need a society to for livelihood, right?
Yeah.
So muna
It benefits you to be
yeah.
agreeable and neutral in that sense.
So dili gid mahimo nga makigsumpaki kaniya na. So muna siya nga kadaghanan sa mga relihiyon nga medyo minority, meaning to say kay Catholic magyud ang kinabag-an sa atong
Yeah.
mga kaigsuonan. So maggrupo-grupo na sila mo na sila na mga different
Other religions,
denominations, right? Maggrupo-grupo na sila ang united sa kaisla sa nasahay, for example kanang Iglesia ni Cristo, di ba?
Yes.
Nga
Muslim community also.
you have to admit nga medyo gamay-gamay ra na sila kumpara sa Catholic Church, right? Pero very united na sila, kung mubutar na sila, kung let's just say 2 million na sila kabuk, 2 million sila ka votes, mubutar anang kandidatuha. So munang nahitabo karon sa atong landscape karon, Justin.
But would you agree that it's also maybe a norm? Imagine if Filipinos were as open. Like, I feel like, is it just me or is it a sweeping statement for me to say that we are more vocal with religious beliefs than we are with political ideology?
I actually don't see that. In fact, that's the
okay.
reason. Actually, that's why I did the Philosopher podcast, because I really felt like we should have a good conversation about stuff, the philosophy.
So
and
we're
religion.
not more vocal.
No.
with religion.
Gamay na kayo tayo mga vocal, mga maihapra sa akong mga kamot, Justin, ang mga vocal kayo about religion. In fact, naanay programa niya itong una long time ago when I was a kid, si Sok
Sama.
Fernandez, masirto, whatever, ang iyang debate ato was I think Catholicism and another variant of Christianity or something like that. So pirmito sila maglalis ni atong una pero mo lagi kaning gamay ra kay na gamay as a society. I don't think we are that vocal because
In general. Okay.
we're not that vocal because we have more important things to think about. Number one, and number two, we're predominantly a Catholic nation. So the Catholics have already won. And I mean, like, we're the majority, right? The Christians are the majority. So murag maglisod yun ka og
To go against that.
to voice out
to
your
voice
opinion.
out, yeah.
Because
Is that a bad thing?
we're not healthy manggod yet. We're not for me lang. I'm making a sweeping statement, but this is what I've noticed. We're not healthy
Enough?
to have a good conversation nga dili mag-away about
What does healthy mean? Like
Kanang mag-
mature enough or more
mature enough to understand
or open-minded enough?
open-minded enough to understand nga you have a different point of view and that's your point of view and that's okay. You know what I mean? Wala tay tendency to convert, for example. Tendency to look down at somebody because he doesn't believe the same things as you do, right? So wala ta na muratag kung ang
Sa
tao
inaandan.
kung ang tao dili nituo sa atong
We tend
pagtuo,
to-
then we number one tend to try to convert them. Number two, try to assuage them to move to their point of view, right?
Yeah. To be biased,
Yeah.
to skew.
Yeah. So may tabuan na is dili na nang ta magsinabtanay. Kaya nga imo automatically mura man ka ang tanan mo luya na niyo.
So in regular terms, we're less cool with people having different opinions,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, we're not open.
We're not open to
Open,
people having,
Yeah.
we're used to that kind of culture of like converting and making everyone go to a specific side,
Yeah.
join my side.
Yeah.
You know what? This is what I think. Maybe you should think that way. You know what's my answer to that? Why we're like that? What's my theory again?
What's your theory?
My favorite answer: colonialism.
Yeah,
Colonizers.
those damn Spaniards.
No, but for real. No, but think about it, right? We've been programmed, not only Spaniards, but several other, the ways we've been programmed
Okay.
that we've been programmed to that everyone must be converted into something.
Okay.
Must have a specific belief.
Okay.
It's integrated in the laws created during the different colonizers. Diba? Does it make sense? I feel like that's one of the reasons why we're like that. Why we're not cool with people having different opinions. Kanaanad banta nga, for the longest time, everyone must succumb to like the same social norms. Everyone in the society must succumb to the majority
Okay.
voicing out.
But you're right. But if you think about it,
Colonialism.
that's really what societies are. Diba? People would rather assimilate. Would rather people would rather have healthy relationships with their neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Dili mag-away ba? Dili ta magpakita sa atong mga pagtuo kay basig dili sila motuo ni anang butanga sa kandidato nimo kung dili basig di siya ganahan ni anang kandidatuha. So dili kay ta like you said earlier, we don't put it on our sleeves, right? Dili ta
Yeah, we don't wear it on our sleeves
Yeah,
good
yeah. So-
compared to,
Yeah. So ang kanamagong agreeableness I think is
is that a bad thing?
is a trait that's good for survival ba? Because at the end of the day, we just want to get by. We just want to survive, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's play the devil's advocate.
yeah.
When can we say it's a bad thing? Like let's look at the negative side of how we
Oh.
are so agreeable. Westerners again, they're very open with their.
They're very
you'll know right away.
confrontational, di ba?
Yeah,
Sometimes, di ba?
they'll say it right away. You know what they support, but Filipinos in general, it's our culture. We don't wear it on our sleeves. We
Yeah.
don't openly tell people
Yeah.
I'm pro this, pro that. Very few people probably are like that, but in
And
general we're not.
they're emboldened on the internet because again,
Yeah.
it's just the internet, right? Pero atubangon na nimo sila most likely dili mo
Most likely, yes.
mo siguro na sila, di ba?
In general, that's our norm here. But
Correct, yeah.
when is it a bad? Why would that be a bad thing? That we're kind of neutral. When is being neutral bad?
When is
Being agreeable
being
bad?
bad?
Because I know when being an extremist or being open, we can say when it's bad. We can know, okay, kana siyang person ba is very close-minded. Kay kanang open, kay siya open, kanang for example, liberalist kay siya, like everything na lang he does is liberalist. So then you could say it's bad.
Well, if you think about it ba, we're all very complex beings, di ba? Human beings are complicated. Komplikado kay tang klase sa
The most complicated.
living organism, di ba? So kanang mga labels, kanang ginatawag nila og kaning liberal, conservative, kaning democratic,
Which we all made.
communistic. We just made this up, right? As a species, right? But we are not magod just one of those. You know, we're not just a Catholic. We're not just an atheist. We're not just a Muslim. We're not just a Christian. You know, we're so complex.
Yeah, you can't just stamp someone and
yeah.
say they are their beliefs.
Yeah. Kaya
Okay.
posible kayo nga Katoliko ka pero daghan kay kag mga pangutana nga mas grabe pa ka sa atheist nga imong mga muton sa ano ana man na, di ba?
Kag doubts about
So kanang labeling mo good. That's actually a symptom of laziness. Sayon man good i-label mo usa ka tawo nga ana na siya. Para kibaw ka unsa siya. Kaya di ba we always fear the unknown, di ba? Dili taganahan og usa ka butang, dili taganahan sa usa ka tawo nga wata ka ila.
Yeah.
So kung tanaw ka niya, tanaw ka nimo Justin.
You know.
Some
So then you're always curious about
some Justin eh.
Mm.
Kaning ko na siya, atheist na siya or Katoliko na siya, kaning conservative na siya, liberal na siya. So butangan ni kag label para sayon ka sabton.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Makes sense.
Pero kung dili nim butangan og label, yawa na niyo wata
But then-
a complete unknown ba.
Mm.
So ang imong pangutana is where is it harmful?
Yeah, to be neutral.
When is it harmful to be neutral?
Kaya kanang I actually agree with that. No,
Yeah.
labeling is it's lazy.
Yeah.
It's a way to let people accommodate to your beliefs.
Yeah.
Because you want
You have
to
a frame. You have a frame.
You want to make everyone fit into your frame.
Yeah.
You want these are my categories,
Oh.
and then I want you to fit my categories,
Yeah.
so I'll put you in here.
Yeah.
You care ka, so that you get to understand
Yeah.
people, and then within your scope of knowledge. But then again, that's affirming why people make stands, why people take a stand. So I'm trying to ask, like, what do you think are the negative sides of like how Filipinos are neutral towards a lot of things? We know the positive. Positive is okay. We're not confrontational. We're not dramatic. We're not extremists. So it's
Well,
good.
A lot of us are not, you mean?
The norm is to
yeah.
not be.
Yeah.
The norm na lang.
Yeah.
Not pardilis sweeping statement.
Yeah.
Kayo ba?
Pero it's
Pero when is it bad to be neutral? Do you think that sometimes being neutral equals being ignorant?
I think being neutral sometimes is because we have a limited bandwidth, right? Ang atong utok na may limited nga capacity to understand because there's so many
Okay.
things we need to understand, right? So maybe na neutral na siya anang butanga siguro because again, we're complex beings, right? You can't be neutral in everything, right? You're neutral on certain things,
Yeah.
right? Because number one, that thing is not important maybe to me. You know, neutral lang ko ana ba kanang lailangit ug impyerno sa may kalibutan
Sa
ako
ilabot na ko ana,
Dili unsa may kalibutan ako ana kung maglalis sa tibok adlaw ni wa gyud tay padungan ani kay wa gyud ta kibaw o bay namatay ni balik. So neutral siya nang butanga. So naay mga butang siguro nga ma-neutral ang tao because number one is he's not interested with it.
So
Number
there's
two-
interest. Okay.
Number two, it's probably something nga dili gud siya makibaw. We will never know. So nganong samok-samok or maybe he's busy with other things. He's busy with an advocacy. Maybe he's more of a political person or maybe he's more of a pro-life
They've got better things to do with their
person.
time. Okay.
So that's better things to do with his time because we cannot attend to every single thing in this world. So na neutral na siya ana. So I
Yeah,
get,
those are the reasons
yeah,
as to why people are neutral. But
Yeah.
I think one of the things I just realized now, if we're to talk about, the extreme side,
Okay.
why is it such a bad thing to be neutral?
okay.
Number one, I also think that sometimes being neutral equals being ignorant. Would you agree?
Being neutral.
Means being ignorant. Sometimes a
Pwede,
lot of people,
pwede.
that's also laziness in a way.
Pwede.
Because instead of having a stand, makakabawa na about a certain thing. For
Yeah.
example, like a foreigner would ask you, hey, you're Filipino. Are you liberalist or are you conservative? Okay, matubag kay mga ka nga neutral ko. It's not because you're not interested in that. It's also because you don't know about it. Like you're-
Well, if you have if you ask that question to a Filipino, a foreigner asking a
yeah,
Filipino,
it also doesn't apply in our context.
no, it does. Kung mangutana ka ana sa tao, neutral, liberal ba siya or liberal, conservative ba siya or liberal siya, I bet you, nana si tubag ana, I bet you he's probably one of both or, like he's probably a conservative or a liberal. Walang siya kibaw. Walang siya kibaw ba? Dili importante niya nga ma-label siya bitaw or wala pa ni label niya ana na siya. You know what I mean? But kung mangutana sila I always think we all have our own biases man gyud, whether we like it or not. Built in na ba?
Yeah.
Because of our culture, di ba?
So, do you think that being neutral is just being neutral is
I think
lack of like you just don't want to say you already have a bias, but you're probably ignorant as to what that bias is, and you've just not labeled yourself.
Correct. Or maybe the a truly neutral person is a child, an infant.
Yeah, because I don't think there's ever anyone who's neutral to everything.
Yeah.
Dude. You gotta have some agenda. You just don't know what it is.
Kanang infant lang. Mo na neutral gid siguro.
Kanagid.
Wala pa siya. He
Kanagid.
he doesn't have any idea of what black or white is in terms of color of skin. He doesn't know what rich or poor is. He doesn't know what love or hate is. He doesn't even know what pain or pleasure is yet. So kung mapasok siya, for example, simbako, mahilak siya. So makibaw na siya, mo ni pain. So these are
So they're kind of like sponges pa.
Neut-
To absorb.
That's the most neutral life form, I think. A child, a newborn life is very neutral. So otherwise, kung tiguwang na ka, I have yet to meet a truly neutral person.
You know, in a way, I would also argue that even infants themselves are probably not neutral, because every sentient being, every living organism that feels pain would always gear towards avoiding pain and maximizing pleasure. So
pero
even in its survival,
wala pa
its
siya
bias is to survive.
Wala pa siya kibaw. Wala pa siya kibaw sa pain or pleasure. Wala pa siya.
Maybe not subconsciously aware, but you're biologically programmed to want to survive, to try to survive.
Yeah, maybe
Diba?
if there's a bias siguro,
Yeah, the bias towards survival.
And
Ano mo, hilak na siya when it's out of the womb.
pleasure and pain, right? So which brings me to the topic now. That's where we form our ideologies, our beliefs based on those two feelings.
Maybe that's the first thing.
Primal
bias.
Bias against pain. So mupadung ta sa kalibutan, padung ta sa less pain,
Sakit.
less sakit.
Asay maka-benefit nato, asa ta malipay.
Malipay, So muna
And that's natural. It's not like gituy na nimo. That is integrated into our survival. Kinsa bay ganahan masakitan. Like naturally, right? Kinsa ganahan magutom. Syempre, even babies themselves, like infants, when they're out of the womb, mohilak kay gutom. So, ang pasabot ana is ma-preferred nila ang pleasure nga mabusog sila.
Correct.
Not nga mamatay sila sa kagutom.
Correct.
So, that is our
First bias.
The bias to survive.
The bias to survive, yeah.
That's nice. That's an implication that we're Jiggy, we're fighters from the very beginning.
Yes,
because we fight for.
We just fight differently, I think.
Yeah.
Each country.
We're survivors. We fight to so ideally.
Each nation has a different way of confronting their reality, right? Confronting the world and its realities. Kay culturally, like maglain-lahi magud ang kada tao, pero ang problema lang karon, or the thing now, the phenomenon now, it's not really a problem, is that because of social media, because we're so interconnected now, sometimes murag magpretend usahay nga we're outraged about the same things. You know what I mean? Like
what?
Outraged about the same things. About, for example, kanang mga butang wa tay labot, kanang Black Lives Matter, for example, kanang all that stuff. But like, we have no we have no skin we have no skin in that game, right?
Not
right?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. It's
Pun
a good thing
intended.
that we feel like we.
Right? Yeah.
It's a good thing that because of digitalization, social media, everyone has a stake in everything. Like we have natay labot, but then also the bad thing is usahay apil-apil ta sa wa tay labot.
Pero ang classic example yun how interconnected we are is what we experienced a few years ago, which was a global pandemic, right? So nahitabo ana buang sa interconnected yun ita kahistanan ang atong mga gibati, atong mga paminaw, atong mga pagtuo somehow interconnected the data.
Yeah, that's what happens when sickness. You know what I feel like, and it's always been repeated over time.
Yeah.
Nga, kana bitaw mga sicknesses, illnesses. Those are great equalizers, I would say.
Yeah.
And this is very much reflective to like kana bitong like sa Bible, kanang time ni Moses and Pharaoh and kaning mga locusts and the plague and all that.
Yeah.
Every time there's a freaking plague, like bubonic plague, the kanang with the rats and all that, and then what's the medieval something plague. Every time that's a great equalizer because regardless of what class you're in, rich or poor, regardless of not only your social standing but of everything, okay, you're all kanang susceptible to literally having your lights knocked out ba. So I felt like that's what happened sa pandemic.
Even the kings, even the emperors, you know, their children
exactly.
died
Ang pharaohs, ang mga ano.
because we did not know any better. There was no scientific innovation
yes.
and discoveries yet. So that was the best that we knew how to engage with the realities of the world. So kung na bubonic plague, na kaning locust or disease and all that stuff, wa man tay idea gikan na sa asa nagikan. So mo nang nag-imbento ta og mga butang sama sa kang demonyo, sama sa Ginoo, sama sa nga pagtuo, because we did not know any better. We did not know that it came from a bacteria, it came from a this and a that. So
You know what?
so ang atong engagement sa
Yeah.
kalibutan limited ra kay tanan sa naibaw-an nato anang panahon na. So I always assert that we're all victims of the ignorance of our time. We are all victims of
Yeah.
the. So kato masig unsa na siya kadato, emperor na siya. He had all the money in the world to buy the best healthcare. Pero ang kinabrightan nga tao sa kalibutan ni adtong panahona kutob ra man diha.
Exactly. And that is why one of the greatest leaders in history, no, si Alexander the Great, even until his death, he wanted it to be a lesson to everyone.
Which was what was the lesson?
Na ato siya instructions gihatag siya mga tao nga inig kamatay nako, I want you to do this. And I think one of them had to do with sticking his hand out. He wanted, when I die daw, let my body be carried by the best medical practitioners, by
Okay.
the best doctors of this time.
Nga naman.
It's to prove out to everyone that even if you're a king, even if you're a great ruler, you've won several wars, no? Alexander the Great, one of the best kind of conquerors
Yeah.
in growing kanang
Yeah.
societies.
Correct, yeah.
Even siya, bisag naghan kay siya wealth and he had the best doctors in his side. When it's his time to die, because he got sick, it was his time to die.
Yeah.
He couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And he wanted that to be a reminder to everyone na, look, the ones bringing me to my grave are the best doctors of this century.
But still,
And still, they couldn't save me. So that, I would say, like, these plagues, these things, they come every now and then to, like, it's the great equalizer. It comes to, like, put people in the same
yeah. But
place.
Huno na nahitabo sa ato ang kalibutan during the COVID-19 pandemic. In less than a year,
Ay.
we were able to make a vaccine, right? Which is unheard of. Because historically, kanang vaccine, dugay kay nahimuon ng vaccine. So, dali kita naka-react. Onya, we overreacted. We overcorrected. Ana mo ginang kalibutan sa siguro, Justin. If you look at history, kadaghanan sa mga earth-shattering events sa kalibutan, ang tao na agad tendency to overreact. Masubraan gid ba? Kumta ka ba? So we'd rather err on the side of caution, di ba? So ganahan ta mahala na masubraan basta kadili lang makuwang kayo ta ka ba say consequence kung makuwang, di ba? So masubraan gyud na siya. So nahitabo nato atong una during the pandemic, grabe kay ta kaning we were cooped up in our own homes, nag-lockdown, nag-mask, and all that stuff, which some of them are actually correct and true, and we should still do that now if something like that happens. But na yung mga uban atong nasubraan na sad ba? Nasubraan na bitaw. So muna siya nga we always have a tendency to overcorrect.
Correct, yeah.
So but correction is always forthcoming. I mean, you know, like after
It
that,
always serves a great purpose. There's nothing wrong with correction,
Yeah.
but I think what frustrated a lot of people, Magod, is sometimes how correction is implemented.
yeah.
Because I remember pag pandemic, a lot of people would complain ba kana bitawng, for example, curfew.
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 Okay.
Curfew was implemented during the pandemic, no?
Okay.
Di ka pwede magawas ani nga time. Bisa mo palit ra ka dito sa grocery, di ka pwede niya kailangan na kay pass. It's either you're in the media, you're a frontliner, this and that, di ba? That's the only reason you can go out
Yeah,
in our society.
Yeah.
Dili ni siya applicable for people in the United States. Wala man sila curfew dito. Mamagay sila lockdown. Di pareha nato ba?
Sa Amerika?
Most states, some states did not have. Kuya Magic.
Depende siguro sa
Depende.
lugar.
A lot of people I knew went to work, went to school. Kita no surprise sila when I talked to a lot of foreigners. They're like, you guys had that? Like, yeah, we couldn't get out if, na lockdown nga na. Pero if you notice also, ang other countries, Westerners, pag onset pa lang sa pandemic, they had kanang close ilang mga borders. I-close ang travel lines,
Yeah, okay.
especially from China.
Okay.
Which was a lot of people also complained here. Kaya how come pag March 2019 until several months pa after, open pa ato ang mga traveling, we still welcomed visitors from China. And so that's what a lot of people that I know, a lot of older people were complaining about. Nakusog kay sila, na overcorrection when it comes to the lockdown, when it comes to the curfew. Pero pag shutdown sa mga, pag-close sa mga, what you call that? Kana mga travelers from China, we're not so strict about that.
Okay.
There were a lot of travelers that were welcome pa. So, di ba, it's overcorrection placed in the wrong or done wrongly.
Yeah, because we were all
Afraid.
um,
Ignorant.
we were all flailing. You know, we weren't doing exactly the smartest things in the world, right?
Yeah.
And
we tried.
we
We're doing our best.
That was the best that we could, right, at that time. So
Yeah.
now, knowing what we know now, we just know
Know better, hopefully.
know better, right? Pero muna sa akong mga na hunonaan pud ba nga sometimes man gud kung naay mga butang nga kaning given na bitaw, naay mga butang nga nakatuna na nato sa niagi ba. Let's just say how to deal with the pandemic, right? So moving forward, it happens again. I hope not.
Simbako.
But we apply the things that we learned in this particular pandemic,
Exactly.
COVID-19, and then we apply it to the next, right? And so on and so forth. So nanatay murag mga best practices mahog, di ba?
Yes.
Inaniun din di ay.
And you know what? I think we owe it to ourselves to make use of that knowledge. Kaya naka-survive man ka. There's a reason why you didn't die at that time. There's a reason why you're still surviving until now.
Yeah.
So you ought to use the best practices
Yeah.
from that time.
Yeah.
And you know what? I remember when the pandemic hit, a lot of our teachers of psychology were telling us that studies have shown that there's a growing new pandemic that is set to happen after COVID-19.
Yeah.
And it's not a virus as big as that, but something even greater that will affect even more without us knowing. And they say it's a mental health pandemic, which makes sense because a lot of people are, especially after the pandemic, karon naman ni gawas ng a lot of people are realizing, I have this, I have that. Karon pa man sila nagpa-diagnose.
Yeah.
So then we don't know in what form. Maybe we're just thinking we're waiting for the next pandemic, but we don't know if we're already living in one, the mental health
But
pandemic.
my point was nga na best practices, and then we apply to the next, and so on and so forth. So we are so far removed from patient zero, right? But let's just say 50 years from now, right? So we already have the best practices, right? This is how to do it. Ang problema nato, the mistake,
Patient zero.
the mistake that we make is that this is actually a common human mistake. This is the mistake of humanity. I read somewhere. Nga we always assume that every day is the same. Like everything is the same. We always assume that this thing
Will stay the same.
Is the same as yesterday. So, for example, 50 years from now, another pandemic hits, right? So our assumption is
It'll just be like
all of those 50 years of knowledge, of know-how, of expertise is probably going to apply to this, right? So muna nga to ang wala ba tay our intuition saying ang atong saktong buhaton pareha ra gyapon sa atong niaging 50 years, di ba? Pero masipya ta basig ka na nga klase nga disease o pandemic.
different.
Lahi,
Simbako.
lahi na siya simbako nga out of this world nga murag in many ways, right? So masayop na tana. So I think that's really a tendency in everything in society. Natay tendency nga
To assume.
because nakasurvive man ta ani nga society ha, mora gyud ni siya ang the best way to move forward. But walay tao ba nga buang bitaw nga usbon nila tanan nga he will throw the rule book and just start from scratch. Walay ina nga buang nga tao. So, but naay mga butang siguro na nga ang kanang paagi kinaraan na dili na mo apply siguro pero ato ang gyapon gi-apply.
So again, the assumption is that as human beings, we
We always assume that every day
Everything
is the same. Every
Yeah.
day is the same. Yeah.
I think I have a theory. I agree with that. I think it has to do with like our human nature,
Yeah.
the way that we crave like familiarity.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we want things to be
Easy.
easy.
Yeah.
And familiarity then also breeds familiarity equals to pleasure most of the
Yeah,
time because
yeah.
adjustments and
We
change
don't have to think about
equals being uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a funny thing about everything. The only constant thing is change. It's contradictory, but it's true. The only thing that will remain is change. And so if you're not adaptable, that's the word, you'll be left behind, di ba?
Correct. Mo na siya. So but the counterpoint for
For that?
everything changes, right? Nothing ever changes. Is that everything is actually the same and it never changes. It's just that we don't look at it from big history. We don't look at it from a more macro perspective. We only look at it from our lifetime's perspective. You know, like atong pananaw sa kalibutan, atong history, atong history is like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, right? But if you look at big history, like from a span of 1,000 years or maybe millions of years, maybe
Then this is probably just a loop of something that happened before.
this is something that has
Exactly.
happened before, right?
Like ang pandemic and the
Yeah.
plagues
Yeah.
and the bubonic and the
Yeah.
the Egyptians and
Yeah. Parihara na sila kuno. But if you have, you have to have the big picture point of view ba. One of my favorite writers is Steven Pinker said nga, you have to look at big history to be able to understand our true circumstance.
Yeah, there's this TikTok clip of a new series I watched. I don't know what it was, but the context is this kid was with his history teacher at a museum. And then niangan siya, hisgot siya nga boring. Ni ana ang history teacher nga, human experience is unique. You know that everything that happens in your life right now, you can see it around this museum
Yeah.
because everything that happens in the past is just a repetition. Because you don't understand when you're looking into the past, you're also understanding why things are happening now.
The way they
it's
are.
just a rerun
Yeah.
in a different way of everything that's happened.
Yeah.
There's no unique so everything that's happening to us, there's no unique human experience.
Yeah.
It made me think also, as much as we'd like to think that we're living everything for the first time, maybe we're not. Maybe we're just
No, we're living.
I mean, in
everything
our
for the
eyes.
in our eyes, for us,
Yeah.
like
But
you,
from
you, Justine Narvios, me, Jiggy Juice. But
Yeah.
if you look at big history, it tends to show us nga this has happened before.
in a way.
Yeah, in a way. Ang akong pangutana lang gyud ani is kaning new invention na to, kaning artificial intelligence. Where has this happened before?
Before.
Like asa man when you look back at history, like unsa man nga invention nga pareha ni ani.
Or discovery.
Oh, discovering nga pareha ni ani. And let's just go back to the Dark Ages, the invention of fire. Like like you can build fire if you want, but
The weirdest thing that came to my mind was like when I think of AI, for some reason I always think about like the discovery of like supernatural forces
Like
and
what?
things that are all knowing and greater than us. And I would automatically think of like how people established in like Egyptian civilization alien communication bitaw, like having a force that supplies you with knowledge that guides you on how to do things, because a lot of them believe that they got that they got those information on how to build the pyramids and how to do this and that from a source that is greater than them that they didn't quite understand. Maybe that's also just a rerun of how we are now
Exactly.
with AI. It's like it provides us with step by step on how to do things, and sometimes we don't know how to do it ourselves, so it's like that great wellspring of knowledge, I would say. I don't know. Is our aliens behind the AI? Maybe.
Ningon sila kuno nga any sophisticated form of technology,
Is an alien.
if you bring it back long enough, let's just say a cell phone, right? And you bring it back 100 years, you would be like a god to them.
Oh yeah.
Imagine bringing the cell phone and then telling you what it can do from somebody 100 years
You'd be a
ago.
god.
You'd,
Yeah.
you'd be like, kuyawa ninyo. Nga na makibaw man siya unsay weather karon, di ba? Kuyawa ninyo.
Exactly.
So, mona,
Take pictures, you can do everything.
that's
be a god kid.
that's the thing with technology, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating.
Would you, if you could bring one piece of technology to a certain time in the past, what would it be and why? Like you want to be a god of that past.
Why would I want to be a god?
Wala lang, like for funsies. Like you just
For
want to
funsies.
for funsies. Like would you what would you bring and why?
I would bring the best healthcare
Okay, that's nice.
in the world.
That's a very
and
Von
bring-
Von and Summer Sir na
bring,
answer.
bring it back 100 years. Because, people's average age back then was like 35, 30, right?
okay.
Pag human, most women died of childbirth. So even...
So what did you bring exactly? Like penicillin, some painkillers?
Yeah, painkillers. Can you imagine painkillers? Hello? Like imagine, atong una, paibot ang ngipon ng Emperor of Rome. Walay painkiller?
And then Saya, we have a traveler from we don't know where, and he brings a special gift. It's supposed to ease your pain, and then you just come in with like Ponstan, like an aspirin bun. You'll be
Exactly,
like,
right?
and then they're gonna worship you and
Exactly,
be like,
yeah.
where did we find this traveler
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
magic
Pill, right?
The magic pill. And dito kay ano ra dito?
Punstan.
Ponstan.
Ito.
May
So,
phenamic acid.
pero
Alaksan.
Huno na lang gud nga ikaw diha dong ikaw diha
that's
day.
funny.
Ikaw diha dong ikaw diha day kanang naminaw na to karon. Huno na ang imong healthcare
Okay, that's great.
mas nindot pa sa pinakadato ug pinaka-smart nga tao sa nga nag-rule sa kalibutan ni adtong panahon na sa the Roman Empire. Ang imong access to healthcare is better than the kings of the world 100, 200 years, 300 years ago. Ano, grabe ka powerful sa.
Okay, that's a good way.
Just that thought alone ba? Grabe sa nga.
Healthcare is everything.
Oh,
yeah.
diba?
Yeah, okay, that was a very nice answer. That was a very wholesome answer. And that's actually a good idea for a film. If there are any, people want to write stories or films, I would suggest that. Like someone who goes back in time and brings the most mundane item that
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
nowadays,
yeah.
but it means so much to them at that
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Okay, that's a good one.
Kanang electricity, for example, line po na siya, kuyaw po na kayo nga invention, di ba? Nga hinuna aragod nga atong una magkandila pa ta. Kuno na na Justin nga atong una kaning computer so pagpaandar ka ani.
Yeah.
Di ba?
Or fuel for travel. Then
Yeah.
that would have made expeditions much faster.
Yeah.
My answer is not as wholesome as yours.
Unsa man,
The first thing I thought
if you
of,
had to bring a technology from the present to bring back to the past, what would it be?
and I don't want to say it now because it doesn't seem as cool as
No,
yours.
it's
Healthcare was cool.
Okay.
Mine was gonna be like plumbing. I was gonna bring toilets to like the Middle Ages.
Can you imagine na yatong
Okay, you know how nasty they were before?
plumbing. Tell us,
Diba, it says in history nga kaning sa mga Middle Ages, especially sa Europe. That's
Okay.
why they always had freaking plagues.
Okay.
Because they would just poo and pee around their castles.
Correct.
They would, even in the ancient Greece, they would share like they had like a communal stick and a sponge that everyone would use to wipe their butts.
Okay.
In
Really?
Yes, in like
Oh my
dili
God.
siya nasa lang yung mga public restrooms that
Okay.
are just like whole bangag,
okay.
and it becomes like not even a sewage and public baths and
Oh
all
my
this.
God,
So they were
jeez.
very not hygienic. So I would bring toilets, and then they would probably worship me, the toilet queen. They'd be like, she's brought a system that could help us.
Actually, I can imagine that a lot of the diseases were brought about because we didn't have good plumbing, right?
That's why
Yeah.
if I brought it, they would worship me for that. The plumbing queen.
The plumbing queen.
Diba?
Yeah.
Like I'd solve all of their issues. Okay, hygiene.
Okay.
And it would also lead to the less diseases and healthcare and
Yeah,
all that.
yeah.
I think it's greater than
So,
you think.
unsa kay plumbing ato na sa?
Kana malibang or mangihi sa rivers
Okay.
and
No, but how about if you're a king or a queen?
in your castles, and then your servants just shove it in a corner. That's why a lot of them got sick. Or they shove it in like the kind of mga underground mga dungeon. Like there's like a hole there's like a pit
Okay.
in the
so-
middle of their castle.
there's a pit somewhere.
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
yeah. So that's why a lot of them got sick. There were several accounts of that. Of so many royalty nga who live in this lavish castles pero walay plumbing.
So mo lagi we are really living in the best of times, right?
We take it for granted, Jiggy.
Yeah, exactly.
I take the toilets for granted.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right?
We take our mga Advil and mga painkillers for granted. Yeah.
But can you imagine? When we go to the dentist, like tagaan anesthesia, injection na din ng spot, pangaman murag way sakit, di ba? Pero
Exactly.
atong una,
Oh
so
my goodness. Everything.
Magkilak siguro.
Di oy mo faint siguro. My
Oh.
goodness. I don't know if anyone has ever tried yung paibot kag ngipon without any I think you would faint. Oh my goodness. Or kana like those who come back from the war, Jiggy ba? Yan na sila yung mga niya, tahion sila.
Kinamdam ka itong una.
Gosh.
There's like a white powder ng ilay butang.
Now?
During the war, if you see World War I movies bitaw,
Okay.
nga naa sila
It's meant to clot.
murag mental
think-
clot niya.
yeah,
Sakit,
it exists until
mag-aso mga na tungod sa
Oh gosh. Is that not maybe kanang
to close the wound or something like that.
Oh, yeah, I think those are like
Yeah.
one of the things that you kanang mga
Yeah.
to clot it or something,
Yeah.
clot the blood.
Yeah.
I think those still exist man now. A lot of the first aiders use that as a special powder, even sa mga military,
Yeah, but
to
they're
clog it up for a while
Yeah.
until you reach, further medical help.
yeah, but like in war now, I don't think they have the best possible healthcare in a wartime situation, right? So do they still bring that even though you can already do something else? I mean, like what do you call that thing?
I forgot. My brother has a couple
Okay.
of those. You can
Okay.
purchase that.
Okay.
A lot of responders have that. For kanang dire emergencies, good, but at least you can, plug it and stop your blood from gushing out.
Yeah. So we should be thankful for everything that we have now in this modern times,
Yeah.
2025.
All
We
the
have access to healthcare. We have access to
Plumbing.
We have access to painkillers, anesthesia. We have access to information, whatever we want to know,
Kinda information,
whatever
the greatest,
whatever point of the world we'd like to know. In fact, nasobraan tag access sa kalibutan nga manay mga butang wa tay labot nga pilapil ta, which is fine, right? But like make sure you
to a
are,
certain extent.
you make sure you focus on the things that are in front of you. Sa inyong tugkaran, sa inyong silingan, sa inyong barangay, sa inyong syudad, sa inyong munisipyo para makatabang ta sa ato mga kaigsuunan in a more realistic way.
Yeah.
Dili in a more
More practical way.
nebulous way nga kaning basa-basa ta og mga butang wa tay labot. Right?
Basa-basa mga butang away labot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
we're guilty. I'm guilty of that.
well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm saying you have to also think about,
I mean,
prioritize, right?
No information I feel like goes to waste. If you know so much about something happening in a laing nga nasod,
Okay.
kana mga drama sa uban mga nasod in a certain industry, that's okay. But then if
Depende-
you also have total disregard for what's happening in your bubble, that's when it becomes dangerous.
I think I think I have to add a few things there. I think all information is not useful. There are certain things
okay.
na you may know and does not have any use to you, right? Right? Like for example, kanang we were talking about the unread library effect. Kanang pag-flash sa anidoro, right? Kung makibaw ka unsaon nganong ma-flash man ang anidoro. For example, kung if you know the mechanism and how it works, right? Onya na imong silingan na plumber na kay amigo nga plumber mataw. Nganong why do you need to know that? So for practical reasons, I don't need to know exactly the mechanism of how a toilet
works.
flushes, right? Because I know there are experts to do that. And I'd rather be an expert on something else. Although I could be an expert on plumbing if I wanted to, but that doesn't pique me.
Oh, that brings a greater debate.
That doesn't interest me, right? Para man ako good, nakita man good, mo gravitate ta sa mga butang, ganahan ta nga it makes our heart skip a beat, right?
And that's why in education, we expose students to all facets of things that they might not even be interested in. And that's a greater affirmation of that argument ba. Diba, usahay makaingon ta, I don't know if you can relate to this. Nagkat-on man tani, oy, say labot na to.
Pilipino nga nang sa mga Pilipino.
Yeah, or like, why do I have to learn this? Wa man ko'y plano magana.
Algebra, unsa mo algebra?
Oh, mag-mathematician ko, di man. A lot of times when I was younger, I was thinking that way too. Like, why do I have to learn about freaking physics? I'm not gonna be a physician. Like, why do I have to learn about this and that? But you're right. It's also you'd find something along the way that piques your interest and makes your heart skip.
Yeah.
But then there's also nothing wrong with knowing about it.
Yeah,
So
of
then
course
I
not,
would
yeah.
still argue that no information is useless.
Okay.
You have to expose yourself to everything.
No, you're correct. No information is useless, and you have to expose yourself in a lot of things. But our problem is this is always the human problem. Our finitude is our problem. We don't live forever. We cannot possibly
we
know.
don't have everything either.
We don't. We cannot possibly know everything. You know what I mean? So that's really the challenge of humanity. Is
So
that
how are you gonna prioritize?
we have to prioritize because you're only given a certain number of years in this world, right? So if you know how to how flushing a toilet mechanism work, that's fine, right? And then, who knows, you might be able to use it, but there, like it's fine, know that, but that means your brain has one less megabyte, whatever, of learning something else. Maybe more important, maybe not. You know what I mean? So
and then the issue there would then ask who determines what is more important and
you
what
do,
is not.
you do,
Diba?
you do. Society does.
So I think the greater lesson there is that manage what you input.
Yeah.
Because again, like what you said, everything is finite.
Yeah.
The amount of information you can take in is finite.
Yeah.
What you're supposed to do with it is finite. So murag agpatakag tanan na lang imong i-absorb nga mga way gamit nga information.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Nasa bating information, right? Like let's say
Misinformation?
na misinformation, na disinformation na po information nga makaluya nimo, di ba? Kanang you become less effective. Let's just say for example, kanang atong kamatayon, right? Like if
Ignorance is bliss in that way.
yeah, kanang butanga man gud usa na sa mga what drives us as a life form, right? Kung sige ka gunahon nga nakadaadlaw, wala lang kay mabuhat, di ba? You know what I mean? So we're trying to in a way probably perhaps distract ourselves from that thought.
The aching truth
Yeah, the
that
aching
everything
truth.
comes to
yeah,
an end.
Yeah, so
Yeah, perhaps.
I don't know.
Very philosophical.
I know. Mo na nakapayat nako Justin ko.
No, that's okay.
Kada conversation basig atong
You know how to turn it to philosophical?
basig sagbot pa na basig basura pa na atong gihisgutan maabot yun na sa pagka-pilosopo ni Jiggy.
Okay ra.
So, okay ra.
Yeah, that just shows that's your bias. That's
Yeah.
the thing that you skew towards,
Yeah.
because everything would always talk about. In my case, I'm also biased to psychology. So
Oh,
in
yeah.
everything we talk about, I'd also
Yeah.
somehow have
Yeah.
something to explain it
Correct,
with.
correct.
I'd always
So-
be like, you know what? And sociology, I'm also
Yeah.
interested in that. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'd always say
Colonialism.
colonialism, but it has to be with the list for some reason. You know what my answer to that is? Colonialism.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's what we're biased
Yeah,
towards,
nagid
diba?
nagid tay.
Gawas lang itong bias.
Kay bawak nga nung magawas ng bias kay ang ato ang pag-eskwela man gud papilion mo gito ag bias gud. Papilion to ag bias, di
You
ba?
choose, you're bound to choose. You can't take, I mean, it's up to you. Ganahan ka, daghan imong courses. Di ka
Oh.
mahuman og eskwela.
But like papilion in a way that's already
Yes.
the society or your parents for that matter nudging you to be biased to a certain worldview. Let's say kung
Yes.
accountant ka, so imong bias kay numbers, di ba?
Yes, data.
Data. Kung kuan ka, kung psychologist
Healthcare
ka, imo na preni mo yung bias mo is mental
Behavior,
behavior
and
and all
ano.
stuff. Anthropologist ka, imong bias kay this and that.
If you're a physician, then your bias is towards everything that has
Yeah.
to do with physics and science. and-
Because to be able to get a job, to be able to find livelihood in society, you have to pick one. You can't
Yeah.
you can't have
Everything.
all. You can't have all.
You know what, Chigi? That's exactly the plot of mga ano nga films ba? Mga utopian, science fiction, like in Divergent, for example. That's really true. It mirrors reality that we are actually programmed and asked to choose a specific path. Just like sa Divergent nga film bitaw, asa ka nga faction, and it's basically to serve a utilitarian purpose. Again,
yeah.
philosophical in nature.
Yeah.
Para na kay gamit aning kalibutan na,
Mupili ka gusa.
mupili ka gusa.
Oh.
You go to school, it's a system that prepares you for another course, which you choose, which then would prepare you for a career, which then is like, we're all kind of like bees. We all serve a purpose in like, we're all like part of the mechanisms of the clock that move. And so, is that a good thing or a bad thing? That's then, stay tuned for the next
Episode.
next episode.
Oh man, we had so much fun talking, Justine. Sometimes I feel like we're having too much fun.
Yeah.
I hope you guys are having fun too. Kung namoy mga comments and suggestions palihog, kung namoy mga topic nga ganahan mo isgutan sa top of the morning, just text us 0962 746-3537. Pangita amin ni Justine or ni Jiggy. You can go to Tops Media Center on YouTube. Tell us what you want us to discuss, what you want us to talk about. Because mo man ni among trabaho ni Justine kada adlaw, kada buntag. Mag-istorya na ito og mga butang nga tanaw nato nga importante, nga tanaw nato nga naigamit, na tanaw nato nga mga makapalipay ninyo or makapahuna na. Mahuna ninyo. Importante kay na Justine sa nga kaning maghunahuna sa taba nga
We stir the pot.
Yeah. Kaya sometimes magud we are really victims of our own thoughts ba nga. Anatay mga panghunahuna nga pagtuon nato mao na gyud na siya. Pero kung naatay madunggan nga lain, parahan niya ning programaha na tingog ni Justine, tingog nako nga lahi pod so quiet pod sa akong panghunahuna. Maybe imong hunahuna ma-stir ba? Like you said, the word that you use is stir. Nga basig imong makutaw ba niya paghuman basig ang imong hunahuna nga sakto dili di ay or na pa di mas nindot ana di ay or whatever, right?
Or whatever. Yeah. So, you know what? We'll tell Ron about this also. I think after this, we'll try to go to a post and then comment on that post, guys. So, watch out on our Facebook page.
Correct.
Let us know unsa nga topics imong ganahan among hisguton.
Yeah.
Because
Hisgutan,
sorry.
Okay.
Because it's really easy for me and Jiggy to like come up with a topic and we talk about something and then we ride off your ideas after in your mga comments.
Yeah.
Pero we'd also like to hear it from you, especially for the entire week, guys. Monday pa man karon.
It's just so funny, Justine, right? We're talking about free will before ba. Niya, ang akong intention nun tato sa pag-ablis ako ang tubangan nimo was to talk about something else. Karon, like I did not intend for us to talk about whatever it is that we were talking about for an hour or more, right? lahat ato akong intention yan
I think we tackled it though. It just we went again the macro. Yeah, that's what happens with Jiggy, guys. Like we'll talk about a specific topic and then we'll talk about the greater implications.
Yeah.
And I think that's how everyone should talk about anything. Because if you just stay in one perspective, like what use is that conversation? So mauna siya, guys. Comment on our Facebook page. We'll be posting. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about for the entire week. And it was so great speaking with you guys this morning. I think Kuya Magic's coming up for the Magic Hour, no?
Stay tuned.
See you guys tomorrow.
Top of the morning. I'm your host. My name is Jiggy Juice.
And my name is Justine Narvius. Thank you for joining us.
And we just got lost in this universe of ours, right? If you really think about it, that's what happened, right?
Yeah.